At this time, I'd like to welcome John Bryant up here to the microphone. John has a very special presentation that he'd like to give.
I hope everybody's doing well this afternoon, and it's certainly an honor to be in front of you. I'm here really for two reasons. While I'm up here speaking, my wife is out there with a booth setting up for some counseling for these grieving senior moms and dads. I was there last year. I know how tough it is, but it's you'll get through it, and it's emotional, and it should be emotional. And it's emotional because your kids have participated in what I think is the greatest high school football program around, without exception. There are a lot of schools that are Dalton High football wannabes. They emulate what we do, but this is a brass tacks. This is the best program out there right now. And you moms and dads, and I say this with all seriousness, I don't know when you have your quiet time, in morning, at night, while you're driving. But thank God, just literally thank God that your children and your sons have the opportunity to be a part of this program or were a part of this program. But the main thing for the parents that I found is just to stay engaged, stay involved. It's go to games, go to 7-on-7 games, whatever you feel fit to do. But I'm going to warn you, it's going to seem weird when you go to the games. I went to my first game this year, and I look on the field, and there's a number 2 running around out there. That seemed really crazy to me. But next year and years to come, there's going to be more number 75s. There's going to be more 19s. There's going to be more 13s, more 12s. There may even be more 11s. But know that they're connected to your son not only through their jersey, but through the hard work and the pride and tradition they put into the program. It's really wonderful. And again, I tie that back to our coaching staff. And a real integral part of this coaching staff is Bill Napier. And Coach Napier, I tell you what, the guy loves to coach football. Morning, noon, night, he's going to be there coaching football and having a huge impact on kids. In fact, last year, after the Alexander game, after we got beat, I'm sitting out there outside the locker room, and I'm waiting on Nathan to come out. And I wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And finally he comes bumbling out of the locker room. And I said, "Are you okay?" He says, "Yeah, I just wanted to talk to Coach Napier." And then he broke down. The rest of the things happened. But it just tells you the impact that these coaches have on our sons. So this whole ice bucket thing rolls around last August. And I say, I'm going to participate, and I'm going to do it in honor of Coach Napier. So I grabbed my dog, put a football jersey on him, and we sit down. And I do it kind of spontaneously. And I said, well, I want to do something and maybe do a donation in honor of Coach Napier for ALS. So I do some quick math. I say, they're moving up to 5A. They're going to play Rome, Sequoia, et cetera. I'm looking at 17, maybe 20 points a game. 436 points later, the season's over. Now, 436, and I was going to donate $25 per point scored. So you do the math, 436 times 25, anybody? 10,900. So this past week, I donated $10,900 to the ALS Foundation in honor of Coach Napier. No. Now, I did that on behalf of me, on behalf of my family, on behalf of all the families and players he's had an impact on in the past, that he's currently having an impact on, and that he'll have an impact on the future. And Coach, I just want to give you this honorary letter along with a gift for you and Pam, and greatly appreciate all your efforts. Thank you so much.
The first award I'm going to give out is the Bryce Joyce Award. And it's given to a student, and athlete. And this year's recipient is an outstanding example of what this award stands for. It bears the name of a person, and Bryce was a dear friend of mine who was the quarterback club president and passed away unexpectedly at a very young age. He was an extremely hard worker, stayed in the background, loved Dalton football, and had grown up a Catamount. And he died at a very, very early age, and we miss him deeply. Like Bryce, this player came to work every day with two goals: to make himself as good as he could be and to make the team as good as it could be. Never complained about playing time, knowing that his greatest contribution came Monday through Thursday. He's an outstanding role model for the younger players and his peers. He was always showing the younger players how to act, how to behave, and encouraged them as well. He also encouraged his co-seniors. He's a great teammate and a great representative of the Bryce Joyce Award, and this year it goes to Francisco Frankie Calderon. The next award I'm going to give is the Kelly McCutchen Award, and it goes to a booster who goes above and beyond what most people would to help the program. Kelly McCutchen, his family goes way back in Dalton history. From a long time ago, they've been involved in the program, been tremendous supporters of the program, and Kelly was extremely supportive and involved when he was with us. If you've ever watched the Kentucky Derby or the Preakness or the Belmont on television, you'll see those racehorses that are just big and strong, and buddy, they come out of the gates hard as they can run. But they got a jockey sitting on them, holding the rein, trying to pull them back a little bit. Don't wear yourself out. It's a long race. And I kind of felt like this with this guy. I was on his back, trying to hold him back. But I've told Matt I wish we had 40 more just like him. I get emotional. The dedication and love the guy has for this program is unparalleled. At one point, I did have to fire him as co-offensive coordinator during the year when he was helping Coach Napier call plays. But if the quarterback club needed something done, this guy was there, more than willing, more than able, and worked extremely hard for this program, and his love and passion for the program shows. And the Kelly McCutchen Award goes to Michael Leonard. Again, just wanted to thank y'all, everybody, for coming today.
I have been asked, and it's a great privilege to present the Carter McCamey Scholarship Award. Each year this award is presented, we feel it's always important to hear Carter's own words to describe the goal of his life and this scholarship. Sometimes this award serves as a reflection of who a young man is, and sometimes it serves as a challenge of how to live in the future. First, Carter said, "I just want my life to glorify Christ. I want everyone that I come in contact with and everything I do to be a testimony of God's power and faithfulness." He said, "Sometimes I don't even pray for the doctors." I believe that he died with cancer, is that correct? "Sometimes I don't even pray for the doctors because I realize God's in control of them. I pray for the people who come into contact with my life. I pray that they may come to know Christ by seeing him in me, whether it be friends, family, doctors, or nurses, whoever. Secondly, Carter said, I got a great feeling about this cancer and my treatments, but regardless of the result, Christ must be glorified, and that's really my great concern. And so as we every year let you hear the words of the young man in whose honor this scholarship award is given, this year this award goes to an offensive lineman. I would say, along with some of you, I've been around Dalton football for a long time. This may be the best offensive football team I've ever seen. What a joy to watch them. And as we all know, that battle is won in the trenches, in the line. This guy was a captain. Coach Sparks told me that he always graded out at the very, very top, maybe graded higher than anybody else. This guy, they said, was kind of an E.F. Hutton kind of guy. He didn't say a whole lot, but when he spoke, everybody seemed to listen. Y'all knew him when you looked on the field. He played left guard. He was number 55. Good-looking guy. Heck of a player. And Hayden, we're going to miss you. It was a great pleasure watching you play. And this is a great honor for you and speaks a lot about your character. So on behalf of the McCamey family and behalf of all of us, it's my pleasure to present Hayden Gross with the Carter McCamey Scholarship Award. Here you go. Here you go. Whoa. And don't forget the check, bro. There you go.
Okay, so for our academic awards, these are going to seniors, and these are seniors who have a 3.0 or higher GPA. So when I call your name, if you'll come on up, and Coach Land's got a plaque for you, if you'll come up and shake my hand and go right down there and get your plaque from Coach Land. Eder Mora. Charlie Martin. Peter Sigmund. Kiko Rodriguez. Nate Mays. Peyton Veraldi. Kelvis Rhodes. Chipper Elrod. Chase Westfall. Hayden Gross. Uriel Perez. Daniel Hurtado. Evan Stewart. Evan here? Evan? Okay. Warner Braun. Chris Hicks. Tyler Britton. Tommy Ridley. And the player with the highest GPA out of this senior class, Evan Pope. Congratulations, Evan. He gets not only does he get a nice plaque, he gets $1,000 money scholarship for college for next year. Congratulations. Guys, congratulations. That is outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you.
for me to start, I have to start with my head coach, my assistant coach, which is my wife, Amy. She's been a tremendous supporter, but more than anything, she's been a great mom to a lot of your sons. And I stayed up late at night, many nights praying with her and thinking about your sons. And she's gone to a lot of hospitals with me. She's gone to a lot of houses with me. She's picked up some. And I don't know if she knew she was getting into this, but it's a little too late now. But I appreciate everything that she's done, not just this year, but every year. Next is our assistant head coach, defensive line coach, equipment manager, best friend. I don't know what else to put in there for him. Jim Bennett and his wife, Teresa, who has been coaching for 38 years. And I'll forget, or you won't have attention after the third hour of being here, so I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. This could not take place without Teresa Bennett. Teresa does an outstanding job and has for many, many years. I have told, 16 years, I've told Jim that when he retires, she stays. So Jim can go, but she stays. We're going to keep her. Next is Steve Sparks and his wife, Susan, who's been coaching for 35 years. And Steve coaches our offensive line. Next is our offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, Bill Napier, and his wife, Pam, and he's been coaching 35 years. Next is our defensive coordinator, Kit Carpenter, his wife, Emily. He's a defensive coordinator, linebacker coach, outside the defensive end coach, and he's been coaching 13 years. Next is to me, one of the pillars of this program. And you never want to single out a peer among anybody else, but his peers will recognize how much this peer works. He's here when I get here, and 9 out of 10 times, he's one of the few people that's left here when I'm here. And that is Scott Thompson, our director of strength training, our defensive backs. He's my psychologist, and his wife, Tiffany. Coach Hard, as he's affectionately called, has been teaching for 17 years. Next is our offensive line coach, Bill Mayo, his wife, Lisa. He's been coaching 27 years. And then we kind of begin the pups of the program, and this is always fun for me. Next is our running back coach, Brad Smith, and his wife, Jenny, who's been coaching for 6 years. I feel like I need to introduce his fiancee first, since she's a Dalton product, but I won't. I'll start with our wide receiver coach, Adam Long, his fiancee, Kristen Brown, and he's been coaching for 2 years. And last and certainly not least, just someone this year who was first time full-time on our staff, linebacker coach Logan Lawless and his wife Megan, who is unable to be here today. Now, if you just stop there and you do a little math for you guys, if you got your cell phones out, that's 200 years of experience. Now, you know, that's a number that you can just kind of slide by and miss if you don't really think about that for just a moment. 200 years of experience on this staff. 200 years that I'm sure over time has been burned out. This year, I asked this staff to go to a place we've never gone before. I asked them to do some things that we've never done. I've asked them to stay a lot later than I promised them we'd have to stay, and they were up to the challenge. They understood what we were facing, and that we have 3 pillars in this program, and we're an integral part of that. And that is, we will not get out-coached. And this group watched more film, they met more, and I'm more proud to be involved with this group than any group that I've ever been involved with my life. But I want to add a couple more to this, because we are family, and there's always those that can't be with you. Pete Wilson and his wife Joy is unable to be here. He was our assistant quarterback coach, worked a lot with Coach Napier. John Patrick, who was an offensive assistant for us this year and really worked full-time, but he's our head middle school coach. Coach, if you'll stand up. Next, we were, I guess I'm kind of doing the Ed or Moore approach with him. Our athletic director at the middle school is a guy that is one of the best practice coaches I've ever been around in my life, and I wanted to get him back on the field somehow. So this year, I sent his wife a text. That's where I started, because I knew if I could get her on board, I could get him on board. And little did I know that I think she was already there on board. And so it was great to get Adam Martinez back out with us this year. And certainly not least, I want to recognize Crystal Clark, who has been just we've had a lot of trainers in our program. And I'm going to tell you something, she's one of the best, because she treats your son like a mother. Now, she also means that she treats him like a dad sometimes. There's sometimes that she tells him to get his butt back out on the field and put a Band-Aid on it. But there's sometimes that she spends a little bit more time, because sometimes the injury isn't in the body, it's between the ears. And they just need a good person to talk to. And sometimes I need that good person to talk to. So Miss Crystal Clark and her son TJ in the back. I want to recognize, we always talk a little bit about the relationship between the quarterback club president and the head coach. And I can tell you, there's story after story of situations that always arise. And we have our share of those. And I can tell you, it is so good to always come to the table with a man whose focus is our kids. It's not money. It's not what can we afford. Now, that's always a part of the equation. He's a fiduciary of the money you contribute. But at the end of the day, his focus is your kids, and how do we give them the best experience possible. He's never asked me, never one time told me, Coach, this is all we can afford. What he's always asked me is, Coach, is it necessary? And if I say it's necessary, he's committed to it. And Jerry, with that, I appreciate you and all you've done for our kids. And then certainly not last, I want to thank the players. Thought I'd get through it. I have the utmost respect for anybody that'll do something that they don't want to do for the glory of somebody else. And that's the definition of a team to me. It's knowing that the guy behind me is probably going to get his picture in the paper. And maybe the guy in front of me on the depth chart is probably going to get the award or the end of the year award. But yet I'm going to keep doing what I got to do to make this team great. That's selflessness, and we don't have enough of that in this world. And it is just such an honor. And it's the best job I've ever had, other than being a dad, to be able to say that I'm the head coach of this football team. There's not one day that goes by, even the days that are not so good, that I've not given a compliment because of the way you guys act in public. Whether it's holding the door for somebody, ringing the bell for the Salvation Army, taking care of business in the classroom, holding the door for a teacher coming in with her arms full. I get a compliment every day on these young men. And guys, I want you to know, I appreciate you winning. I appreciate you doing all the things on the field you do. But let me tell you something. That's a way far second to me. I appreciate who you are. I appreciate the type of people you are. And I think some of you, the world's your oyster. You just got to make the decision to open it and take it. Now, with that, let me introduce some people that are a little bit more closely related to our team. And these are the managers of our football team, our young managers that come in and work with us. And I think there's just a few of them that are here. But I want to start with a guy that kind of runs them all. He's the guy that is the grand poobah. And I know that if I need to find my son on the sidelines, all I got to do is call his name. I'm not going to call my son's name. I'm going to call his name. And that starts with Tice Love. Come here, Tice. Tyus is our ball boy. I tell you, he's done just about everything. If you come to a sports game, a sporting event at Dalton High, you're going to see him either on the court or on the track or somewhere. Somehow he gets down there. He gets down there in places where you're supposed to have a pass. But I'll look down there and there's Tyus. He loves Dalton football, and it's a pleasure to see that next year he's going to be Catamount. He's going to be one of these freshmen, and we're looking forward to see what Tyus is going to do. The next two young men I don't believe are here, but I want to say their names, and that's Malachi Gregory and Jameer Gibbs. These two young men came over with Coach Lawless on Fridays and worked with us. They're future Catamounts as well, and just great attitudes. Came in, never once was a discipline problem, and I just tell you, it was just fun coaching those guys. And this last guy, I don't know what I'm going to do with him, but I tell you, he's a pretty little special guy to me. And that's my son, Cross Land. Cross, come on up. Pan down, make sure you get this. Cross is infamous for his words of wisdom during a game. And during the Northside game, there was just a couple of moments there where we were trying to get together the game plan to how we could finish the game and what gave us the best opportunity to maybe come back on the team. And probably about 6 minutes left in the game, there on that monumental drive, I feel somebody tugging at my pants. And I look down, and it's Cross. And I said, "Hey, buddy, what's going on?" He said, "Dad, all we need is a fumble and a big Zeke pass." And we was trying to get that fumble on with Coach Carpenter. We was doing everything we could. We just couldn't grab it. But I'm going to tell you, great word of wisdom there. He did have one setback this year, though. He got left without a box of chicken after one of the games, and that's his pay. So we had to find him 2 boxes of chicken, didn't we, Jerry, the next week. So appreciate those guys and what they do, and I want you to know why we have those guys there. We have those guys there for a reason. First of all, to serve and to help our football team, but also for this reason. We want you to know as mom and dads, I'm not going to say or do anything to your son that I wouldn't do or say in front of my son. You'll look at times as our Coach Thompson and Coach Carpenter and Coach Smith, as our boys get older, they're going to be ball boys if they want to. And I've told you before, I'll probably have a ball girl out there one day with 3 girls. One's going to show up. But I'll tell you this, they're there to remind us that these are young men that are impressionable, and everything we say and everything we do is going to leave an impression on them. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be nice, and we're not going to tell them things that that they're not going to believe and things we don't believe. But what it is to show you is the manner that we're going to treat and coach your son is going to be the way we're going to act at home. And that's what makes these men at this table so great. There's not one night I worry about what's going to be said or what's going to be done in front of my son and in front of your son. And for that, I hope you recognize how great it is to have these guys on our team. With that, I'm going to begin now to introduce our freshman team. So guys, sharpen yourself up, put your ties up tight. And these guys were a very hard-working team this year for us. It was really, really fun to watch this freshman group as they went through the year. They're very well organized. If you've been to our practices, you know that we try to give them as much individual time as we can. But at the same time, there's just some things that we can't do. And so with that being the case, these guys take a lot of verbal instructions from me, and you've heard me yell. And so with that, by the end of the year, they were like Pavlov's dog. They went right where they were supposed to go, had a good attitude when they got there. Very talented, very, very talented group in the skill positions. Going to be a very good football team as these guys are part of it heading in the future. We tried some new things this year in the way that we divided them kind of into sub-teams. And when we did that, we kind of created a situation where we would play one team on offense the first half, one team on defense the second half, and then or in the first half, and then at halftime we would change them. So the guys that played offense would play defense second half. Now I don't know if that was right or wrong. I don't know if it's going to make anybody a Heisman Trophy winner. No clue. Here's what I know: it did a couple of great things for us. One is it kept these guys in a situation where they were constantly learning. Second thing is it helped their development. It helped them understand where could be their place in this team. And third, it helped our coaches. It assisted them in determining where these guys might play and might help us next year. As a coaching staff, we're committed to getting these guys on the field as quick as possible. But we need to make sure they're in the right place and doing the right thing. So this year, it was fun to be able to see these guys do that. So with that, let me begin to go through these guys. First is J.P. Ty, a quarterback and a linebacker. Come on up, J.P. J.P. was a great athlete, got a great future. A lot of things he can do well. We're going to see all those things as we go through this next year. Next, number 10, Harrison Norman, fullback and linebacker. Harry's greatest feature, other than his hair, is the fact that he's very versatile. We really don't know all the things he can do, and so we're going to keep plugging him in and seeing where that he can help us the most. He's a kid that's going to play a lot of different positions probably when he leaves. Next, Harrison Hughes, number 12, quarterback and free safety. Harrison is a great worker. He's a guy that takes instructions well. He's very coachable. And he's another one of those guys that for the next couple of years, he's going to be that's on the field in a lot of different places. Next, Gavin DeFore, wide receiver and defensive back. Next, Roger Quintero, fullback, defensive back. Now, we like watching this guy play. This guy's got a high motor, never runs out of gas. Unlike some that we've had in the future that's been off throttle, no steering wheel, he's got a good steering wheel. The good thing about Roger is he's hungry. He wants to play now. He don't want to sit behind anybody. He wants to play, and he has that same aggressiveness in the weight room. Next, Grant Goldberg, wide receiver and defensive back. Grant's a guy that's very dependable, and one of the things that Grant has to his credit is that Grant is going to be a deep snapper for us as well, and that could help him get on the field as well pretty quickly. But he does a lot of things that we like, got great hands, and like I said, right now, deep snapping is something he can definitely help us with. Chandler Starks, quarterback, defensive back. Chandler is another guy that's a hard worker. He does a lot of our throwing sessions. Last year, we took the freshman quarterbacks. Took a lot of our quarterbacks, and they had to work with the varsity guys, and it was so good to just know. I was going to get a text that morning, Coach, what time do we need to be there? Coach, what time what time is it that we're going to get through? You're just always involved and always mentally into it. So it's good to know we have some dependability there. Next, Caleb Ramsey, wide receiver, defensive back. Caleb's extremely quick. Caleb, what did you have at East Hamilton? 3 interceptions? No, it was Calhoun. You had 3 interceptions. Had 3 interceptions in the Calhoun JV game. He's going to be a guy that's going to be hard to keep off the field next year. Obviously, he can play wide receiver, but defensive back, he's going to have an opportunity to step in and play as well. Next, Noah Bartu, fullback, linebacker. Unlike his brother, he's not hard-headed. He's just hard-nosed, and he's a guy that's a plugger. He's got a fan in Coach Mayo because Coach Mayo feels he can pretty much wear him out, and he's recharged and ready to go. So, but he's a guy that has really developed for us as a fullback, and probably see him there for the next couple of years. Next, Jaden Montgomery, tailback and defensive back. Jaden is quick, got very good hands. The thing I like about him, though, he's very respectful. And everywhere he's at, he's standing up straight, good posture, represents everything we do well. He's a good student. I get a lot of compliments from his teachers, but he's a young man that can play football as well. And I think the thing with him will be seeing his frame. Will he help us at wide receiver, or will he help us at tailback? Next, Ethan Carroll, fullback and linebacker. Ethan is a great reader. He feels the whole. He's a swimmer, so he's in great shape. Good job. And but just has a great knack for finding the ball, and he's a guy that I like watching on film. In fact, when I'm watching film, I a lot of times will get kind of mesmerized and watch him a lot. I'm not sure if this young man got here yet. DeMonte Haynes. Did DeMonte get here? Okay, Art DeMonte. Next, Lorenzo Garcia, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. As you can tell, he's got good size. He's got a great gait about him. One of the things that I enjoy. One thing I like about Lorenzo is Lorenzo thinks like a skilled guy. He don't act like a skilled guy, but he thinks like a skilled guy. And he's always wanting to know what makes him faster, what makes him quicker. And with that, that's something we can do something with. You don't need to expect to carry the ball, though. Next is Kevin Diaz, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Kevin had a prior engagement and wasn't able to come. Dylan Cole, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Dylan is a natural center. He's been playing center for a long time, and is a young man that really sees that as a craft. He sees it more than just snapping the ball. He sees it as a job that can be done. But he's got a great intensity side, so I see where he could probably help us on defense as well. Next, Caleb Rogers. Caleb. Jerry Alvarado. Jerry is still learning the game, but he learns the game full speed. And not one day did I ever have to get on to Jerry about his hustle. He was always hustling. And that's something that we can definitely build on. Ivan Calderon. All right, this is the reason why Frankie's so skinny. This is little big brother. Ivan is a guy that's going to definitely play for us next year. He played a little bit for us this year. Felt like in this freshman group he was probably the only one that really had the opportunity to step in and help us if need be. And he got a little bit of varsity play time, but next year he needs to be on the field a lot. The question is going to be exactly where he fits in. Isaac Turner, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Thing I like about him other than a bow tie is the fact that he does not accept any limitations. He doesn't recognize the fact he's an underclassman. He doesn't recognize the fact that he's a freshman. He doesn't recognize the fact that there's a third string, second string, first string. He just wants to be the best today that he can be. And that's been a great attitude to have, because at that line position, he's going to have that attitude spread. And you can be a leader. And don't let people think just because you're a sophomore they can't listen. So great job this year. DJ Grant. DJ's getting there. He's a guy that obviously has good size. He's a guy that we're going to continue to work on the conditioning side of it. But DJ's a hungry guy in a lot of ways. But he's a hungry player. And the thing that I like about DJ is DJ always wants to do what the team first. He's a team-first guy. And that's a guy that will go a long way, not just on his football team, but a long way in life. Mal Leonard. Offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Thing I like about Mal wants to excel. Wants to be good. He's a guy like Tice that's been around the program in a lot of different ways. Got good height, and he's a guy that's going to be committed over this offseason. We're going to keep seeing him get better, and he's a guy that's going to play some football for us one day. Israel Carbella, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Israel's the other one that we thought really could maybe help us this year. He's not only got good size, he's a basketball player and really moves well. He's got great quickness, great footwork, and has just really, the question, and once again, you hear me say this a lot with this group, is just finding out where he can help us, because right now he could probably step in and play defensive end and help us there. Same time, he's going to have to step in and play guard. So a lot of these guys are going to be playing some of those multiple positions that we talked about earlier to find out where they fit in. Now this next one, Daniel Wright, wide receiver, defensive back. Who's in your proxy? You going to come on up? Daniel tore his meniscus on Friday doing a very strenuous exercise. He was sitting, and attempted to get up, and we think it might have been an injury he's had for a while, and just the way it happened was the way it happened, and he'll be having surgery tomorrow, so keep him in your prayers tomorrow, and hopefully he'll be out with us soon. Joseph Reese, tight end, defensive end. Clay Britton, wide receiver, defensive back. Clay constantly reminds me he's the good-looking Britton. At this point, we concur. Really, he's all the things Tyler's not. Quick and no, I'm playing. Just playing. No. Tyler knew that was coming. Is pre-planned. No. Clay's a hard worker. He's a guy that has got really soft hands. And I think, he's a wide receiver, but the question is can he get his speed up to help us on the outside? Otherwise, he's going to wind up being probably an inside slot receiver, and there's always a shortage of those guys, so we're looking forward to seeing him there. Will Hollier. Did Will show up? Will. Wide receiver, defensive back. Will came along late. He showed some promise, had a couple of interceptions up at East Hamilton, played really well. Will's a good player. He's a guy that probably has another gear somewhere, and I think he's got to find it, and I think he will under Coach Thompson. He'll find where he needs to be. Next, Philip Sheely, tight end, defensive end. Philip, as you can tell, good height. We've got to make his athleticism keep up with his height. I think he's probably got more growing to do, and so with that, we always see in that sophomore year, guys' feet grow, their hands grow, sometimes the body don't grow. And so they get a little bit cumbersome. So with that being the case, we're going to keep working on him. We think he had a great year playing defensive end and tight end both for us this year. Normando Trevisio. Normando, first of all, is a great teammate. I watch him every day in the weight room. He doesn't know probably half the guys' names, maybe some of these older guys, but I see him patting them on the back, patting them on the butt, telling them good job. He's always, when somebody's getting 3 or 4 extra reps, Coach Thompson, he's always that guy that's right there encouraging them. He's a great encourager. We need some people to continue to encourage him, and I think he can help us. Next, Lucius Stout. Wide receiver, defensive back. Lucius is a late bloomer, but he's going to get there. He came out this year, transferred in, and really worked hard. And he's a fun guy to watch play. When I need a moment, I go with Lucius, and then he gets me in the right place. And it's just fun to watch a guy that just enjoys being out there. Last, Elijah Inslee, wide receiver, defensive back. Elijah is a guy that's got good hands. I've been very impressed with the way he runs his routes, and played a lot of defensive back for us in some of the games as well, and is a good hitter, not afraid of contact. So it's going to be fun to see him. So this is your freshman class from this year, 2014. And with that, we'll transition into our varsity team. I want to make a few comments about our varsity team. They made the transition to classification 5A. I remember the very first conversation that Coach Thompson and Coach Bennett and Coach Smith and I had with them in the weight room. I remember it as vividly as talking to my wife yesterday. I remember how we spoke. I remember the tone. I remember the nature of the conversation. I'm a body language person, so I spent a lot of time watching people and how they responded. And I watched these guys, particularly our senior class, watched how they kind of approached what was being said and the challenge that was being put forth in front of them. And Jerry not only spoke words that Jerry believes. It's really the pillar of our football team and our football family for all these years. And that is, we don't accept excuses. There are no excuses. There can be explanations, but there will be no excuses. Secondly, is that this football team had a job to do. And whether it's on the battlefield or whether it's in the workplace, sometimes you don't get to make the decision. You just got to follow through with the order. Sometimes there's one chief and there's a lot of Indians, and we had a lot of Indians in this room and our coaching staff as well. And it was great to see these guys rally around something that they may not have been able to do anything about up to that point, but they were the only ones that could do something about it moving forward. They began to set those expectations. They were the region runner-up. I believe, as Mr. Davidson, I believe that they were the co-champions. I really think they were the champions. We sent video evidence into the GHSA, but that's one of those things you can't do anything about. But these guys never complained. Not about that. They never complained about the things that they could not control. They continued the tradition of 4 consecutive years in the playoffs, something that's been an important part of this program, something that we're trying to bring back to us, the record that really matters. A winning season might get you a nickel and a free pass to the movie, but you make the playoffs, you got a chance to win the state championship. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to win. Took a very, very business-like approach to the season and each workday, more so than I think I've ever seen. In fact, this is probably one of the most non-emotive groups that I've ever been a part of, outside of when Chris Hicks broke the window. So outside of that, very, very non-emotive group. In fact, to the level that many times as a coaching staff, we literally just did not go in the room because, to be honest with you, didn't want to know. Because what they proved over time was that their moment was what was about to happen on the field and not what was happening in the locker room. They were a horrible pre-game team. And I told them I'm okay with that. I don't care what pre-game looks like. I want it to look good. Sometimes we're going to need it to look good. All I care about is 7:29. And these guys always stepped up at 7:29. They understood what had to be done in order to compete and to achieve. They understood that our best effort would get us beat. I've told this team on many occasions, your best should be guaranteed when you put the D on. But your best is going to get us beat. You got to get the job done. Whatever that looks like, you got to get the job done. They accepted that challenge. Had over 5,000 yards of offense and scored 36.33 points per game while allowing only 13.25 points per game and recorded 3 shutouts. We had some real hard conversations as a football team throughout the year. But they learned that different opinions and different personalities can always obtain common goals. We didn't need to be friends. We didn't need to be buddies. It's okay. They had a job to do, and I had a job to do. And it was the goal that was the common thread and the way we were going to go about that goal. I think that's a great lesson for society today. They also saw a great role model in our coaches on how to serve each other, which they not only stepped up and helped serve their teammates, they stepped up and also served our coaches, particularly Coach Napier. One of my favorite pictures is from 7-on-7 and seeing Coach Napier with his arms around 2 of the guys calling plays. And I just thought how important that is philosophically to a football team, how important that is for people to see people needing and depending on each other. I was going to read you a few texts that I got from this year and some emails, but there's too many for me to read, and they all said basically or commonly a very similar theme, and that was this. Your team represents everything that's good in sports today. I had a lady send me a text from Northside. She said, I've never seen a Dalton High team play, but I have heard about Dalton High my whole life, from my daddy to my grandfather. And she said, I will die knowing that one of my great privileges was to see your team play on our field. When we go off to camp, or when we were going to the public safety department on the way down, to get a compliment from one of the custodial workers, or from one of the lunchroom attendants about how they put their chairs up under their tables and clean their tables up. That's not a reflection of our football team. That's a reflection of you. That's a reflection of all of us as a family. There's numerous ways this group has cared for and served each other and our community. I'm very proud of what this team has accomplished on the field as well as off the field. They've represented our school system. They've represented our community and you parents very well. They've stepped up to make some tough decisions and live with those consequences, which is another example our society and particularly our community needs to follow. I want to end with this, and then we'll get right into the players. My pastor this morning is doing a series on the road, getting where you are to where you want to be. And I don't have many epiphanies now at this age, and the light bulb has really kind of become more of a flashlight. But there was 3 points that were made in our sermon that I'm going to challenge you guys with, because I think this is what you really lived and showed us this year. One is that you can rarely see the destination where you're at. When we painted the vision for you, you had no idea what it looked like. You just knew where it was. You didn't know how to get there. You trusted your coaches, you trusted each other, and you worked hard to get there. Distractions and hazards can keep us from reaching our destination. How true is that in life, mom and dads? How many distractions have we had along the way that slowed the progress or slowed the journey to get where we are? Well, football teams like that. So many things get in our way. And last, my decisions and actions are not isolated events. We make decisions every day on this football team that affects everybody else on this football team. And that's a challenge to you on the field and off the field. Make decisions that are good decisions. You made those this year. And know that others will either reap the benefits or they won't reap the benefits of the decision that you make. So with that, coaches, let's go ahead and line up. Let's start with our sophomore class. First, Matthew Tankersley, manager. See here? He told me he wasn't going to be able to be here, but I wanted to say Matthew did a great job. He did our video and also handled the sideline balls. And when we had to have him, he's a full-time wrestler, but he worked with us good. Next, Cole Shelton, quarterback, defensive back. Cole is a hard worker. He's an excellent athlete. And he's a guy that really has a great future for him on a lot of fronts. And we look forward to seeing what he's going to do here for our football team. Next, Marshall Phillips, wide receiver. Marshall's a fun guy to coach. He's a hard worker, good route runner. He's got great hands. Next, Keith Adams, running back, fullback. I learned this phrase from Coach Dye. He is a plugger. And I maybe in heaven I'll get the definition of what a plugger is, but he's a plugger. If there's anybody that just sticks their face in there and fills the gap, he does. And he'll take on anybody, any size. He's got more courage than anybody I think I've coached in a long time. And it's fun to see him play on Friday nights. Next, Gerardo Garcia, defensive back. This is our scout team leader, and it's also Cross's favorite player. Of course, I asked him why, and he said he's about my size. So that's funny. We sit there and watch the film, and I look at him and Cross. They're standing right there on side by side, and I'm thinking, who is that? But Gerardo is a guy that he gets our scout team lined up. Many times I heard our coaches refer to Gerardo to get them lined up right. That's a great quality to have, Gerardo. Next, Sam Stepp, quarterback. Good job, brother. Sam's a guy that's a very effective runner. You saw him play this year. He's a guy that we've got to find out where he helps us best. It could be quarterback. It could be running back. It could be slot receiver. Don't know. But he's a guy that's going to be able to play a lot of football. Next, Zeke Cobb, wide receiver. Zeke's a guy that, as you can tell, he's a guy that's been blessed with a lot of talent, been blessed with a lot of skill. Had a great year. He developed. He began to understand his role. He had 36 receptions for 636 yards, averaged 17.7 yards per catch, and had 7 TDs. You can read in, he was voted on one of the teams, second team All-Air. But the great thing about Zeke is Zeke became a great blocker. And one of the things that's going to be required of any receiver at Dalton High School You can be the greatest receiver in the world, but if you can't block, you won't play. And Zeke is a guy that by the end of the season had become one of our best blockers. And Mr. Renz can attest to that. He made numerous comments to me about how great he did on the perimeter. And that's a hard place to block. First of all, you got to hold to some degree, but you can't hold to the penalty level, whatever that means. But he's got a great wide base, and he's a guy that's already received a scholarship offer and is probably going to have a very busy summer this summer. Next is Devin Pope, outside linebacker. Devin. Next, Jesus Mercanti, wide receiver, defensive back. Jesus is man, he's a hard worker. He is the most full-speed player we have. He goes full speed to the bathroom, full speed to the food line. I mean, he is full speed everywhere he goes. And he's just a joy to coach. Next, Leif Land, wide receiver. Leif's got great hands. He's a good route runner. He is a fun guy to coach, and he's one of those things that, in this profession, there's some real benefits to it, but one is the ability to coach your family. And I'm proud to be able to coach Leif, and he's my nephew. Next is Maddox Houghton, defensive back. Maddox, very, very valuable player on defense. Could play for us on offense this year. He's a guy that, when you look at him, he has so much versatility. And one of the things that I think we've got to do over this off season is really kind of see where he helps us best. But I have a feeling it's probably going to be on both sides of the ball as well. Colton Fromm, outside linebacker. Colton is definitely a full-speed downhill player, and that's just on the basketball court. If you come out and football watch him, he's the same way. He is full speed. He's a hard player. He's a guy that we had to move. We've kind of had to move him inside and outside based on what our needs were, but he's really a better inside linebacker. But I think we're going to kind of see where his height and his weight is and speed. He could be back outside, but he's a guy that's definitely going to be on the field for us next year and played some special teams for us as well. Tucker Sumner. Linebacker guard. Coach Mayo asked me to throw that in there. About 5 more burritos, he's a guard. So I think he wrestled just to stay in the skilled position numbers. He's not far from a 52. Isn't that what you said, Coach? 54. Okay, so we're going to have that on the sidelines. That's right. Tucker is a tough kid. We need to settle on the decision on him, but he's a guy that really, really uses his weight to his advantage, is a great leverage player. Next is Kyrick McGowan, wide receiver. To me, Kyrick is probably he was the most underrated player on our football team this year, and probably a reflection on me, the most underutilized player on our football team. We really wanted to get the ball to him more, and we will next year. He's going to have a great opportunity to step in and be one of our offensive leaders in a lot of different ways. But Kyrick really helped us on defense. I think he'll do that again, but also he will be one of our offensive starters for sure. This young man, Del Monte Howe. Did Del Monte show up? Okay. Thomas Wright, defensive back. Very coachable, very trustworthy. He's a young man that I don't have to worry about. I know that he's always doing what he's supposed to be doing. He works hard on the field. He's a guy that, as we look at our football team, a lot of guys like that have played a lot of football for us, and we've got to continue to work him and get him ready to play. Next, Matthew Howell, outside linebacker. Matthew was a young man that his role expanded as the year went on due to some injuries, but also due to his willingness to work hard. and willingness to try some things new and do some challenges. Stepped up and really played well for us at outside linebacker, and even had to drop back and play a little free safety. And like I said, he's shown us a bright future for Matthew here. Parker Putnam, linebacker. Parker is a tough runner. If I had to categorize him as anything, he's one of our JV and scout team defensive leaders. Particularly as we got into changing our defenses, and obviously as we got into the season, and Coach Mayo and Coach Napier and Coach Sparks were drawing up some of these intricate blitzing schemes and all these things that we needed to see because teams were trying to do it to stop us. You always got to have a coach on the field. You got to have somebody that can kind of coordinate that. And Parker did a great job of stepping into that role and being a leader. And we're going to expect him to do that next year on varsity as well. Jake Ferguson, defensive lineman. Jake is he found a home on the defensive line. He found a home with Coach Bennett. Jake's in the right place with the right guy. Jake's going to play and help us. I can tell that. Coach Bennett's going to get him all of his steps and everything. We got him over there late. He played offensive line. And once he got him on the defensive line by midseason, he began to get in that mentality of being a tackler. And really had a good scout team season. And I thought he did a very good job, Jake. Very, very proud of you. Next, Justice Washington. Max Maynor, defensive lineman. Max had to mature very quickly. As you can tell, Max has something that we don't provide, and that's a lot of size. Our goal this year was to really try to develop Max at his pace. But early on, a couple of injuries, we had to throw him to the wolves. And I'll be honest with you, I, for one, was very worried because I had not seen Max be that aggressive. I had not seen him be that kind of player that we were needing. And Max did an outstanding job of learning on the fly. Our coaches did a great job of giving him what he could do. And he became a very, very important part of our defense. And some games he only played 5 or 6 reps, right, Coach Bennett? Sometimes he was in there for almost 15, 20 reps. And as you know, on a defensive line, that's almost practically a starter because we have so much rotation in there. And so Max did a great job, and Max is a guy that we're probably going to wind up needing to build around next year on our defensive front. Caden Stokes, offensive lineman. Caden really came along as the season went on. I rode him like a dime store mule all season. And it wasn't because I didn't like him. It wasn't because of anything other than I think he has the potential to be a very good offensive lineman. And so I'm going to keep riding him like that mule for the next 2 years because I think he can really be a very good offensive lineman. He's got to believe in it himself. That's number one. Second of all, he's got to work towards it, and I think he's going to. Very excited to see what he is. Jake Brock. What was that? Oh, my Lord. Well, as Jake demonstrates, he has a broke arm this week. Jake is a walking injury. And now the good thing about it is he gets it from his daddy. And his daddy reminds me, he's a 2-time all-region player. So he knows how to play with an injury. It's in his genes. But Jake did a good job this year, scout team center. And you can never appreciate a center enough, particularly on the scout team. And I'm sure he got beat black and blue and never complained. Really, really did a good job. Nathan Moore, defensive end. Nathan had an injury during spring practice, and we hated it because we had really planned on Nathan being a really an important part of our defense this year, defensive end. It created some opportunities for some other players, but at the end of the day, we hated to see him not be able to be with us. But he's going to work hard over the season, and there's definitely going to be an opportunity for him to play next year. Next is Davis Looper. Davis is I played with his daddy, and he's got the same characteristics. He's sly but tough. He'll hide sometimes in the line, and you don't see him, and suddenly he shows up. So as long as he's doing the right thing, I'm fine with that, as long as he's not hiding at the water trough. But he does a lot of good things for us on the offensive line. I think he's a guy that probably needs to be in at the guard position, because that will protect a little bit on his speed, but at the same time, he really, really works hard and wants to play, and so we're going to try to get him out there as quick as possible. Diego Campos. Diego's is a guy that wants to be good. He's very consistent. And sometimes that's consistent good, sometimes that's consistent bad. But it's consistent, and that's something you can work with. And the thing about Diego's is he's one of the most respectful guys on the team. And when you're respectful, you're coachable. And when you're coachable, you'll be a good player. And Diego's played for us some early in the season this year, battled a few elbow injuries and some things like that. But he's going to have an opportunity to play next year as well. TJ Alt. TJ's very talented, and we really need TJ to have a good offseason. TJ is going to have an opportunity to play. He could help us right now at right tackle, but he's obviously going to have to get a little stronger and get a little bit bigger, but I know he's going to do it. I know I have that kind of faith in him, and he can also help us possibly punting, so we're going to have to look at that as well. Is AJ here? AJ Womble. Defensive lineman, offensive lineman. This is Cross's second favorite player. The great thing about AJ is not only his great size, is he's got a great attitude. And I know there's days he don't want to be out there, I don't want to be out there, you wouldn't want to be out there. But he comes, and he's there. And he listens. He listens to Coach Mayo. He listens to Coach Bennett. He's going to wind up being an offensive tackle. And he's got, if you watch him playing basketball, he's got great feet. We just got to get everything else catching up to that. And you'll have a good career here, AJ, I'm sure of it. Next, Gavin Driver, offensive lineman. Not only does he have a good haircut, good-looking haircut this year, the thing I like about Gavin, he got a long body, and this is his year, and he needs to step up. There's a starting position for him, and he can step up and take it, but he's going to have to work in the weight room. But he's going to have the opportunity, and he's got the frame. He's got what God gives you that Coach Thompson and Coach Smith can't, and that is the frame to work with. And so we're going to pack some pounds on that, and he's got good quickness. He's a basketball player. He can post up good, but we're going to need him to post up out there at outside tackle. Next, Brock Nelson. This is the other injury waiting to happen. I love Brock, but the other night I was going to count the number of times that his dad has texted me about something that's happened, this or that, and there's a ton of them. But he keeps showing up. He's like that dog that just keeps getting hit. It just keeps kind of waddling up. But the thing about Brock is Brock's body's grown, and so we had him scheduled a linebacker, and then it's kind of defensive end, tight end, and if he keeps growing, he's going to have to probably help us inside. But he's, once again, another guy that's going to be able to play next year. Tanner Neal, wide receiver. Tanner's got great hands. He developed into a great route runner, and I was watching these varsity guys do all these little trick catches during practice, and he's got them down. He can do them all just as good as they can. And it's going to be fun to work him and get him to a point to where he can step out there and play on Friday nights. Jake Thomas. Jake, very, very hardworking, unselfish player, and he got a lot of work early on. Chase went through a series of injuries and wasn't able to practice a lot for really an extended amount of time, about 5 or 6 weeks. And Jake took every single rep. And then we get to Friday night and Chase would play. And then Jake would come back on Monday and he'd play. And then on Friday, Chase would play. And, I never got a question of, Coach, is there a point to where I'm going to get to play? And but Jake knew his place. He was a role player, and we got him in there on some things. But what it really helped him is he's prepared for this year, and he's a guy that, though he wasn't a starter, he's going to have to step in and really help us. Where Coach Napier is probably going to challenge him a little bit is during the 7-on-7 season, which is not what his forte is. And if he can really develop as a receiver, there's no reason he can't step in there and help us at the tight end position. Charuri Hurtada. Did Charuri Hope show up? Charuri, if you watched him, this is a great thing about here. Just got a great live leg. We had one of our quarterback club members allowed us to bring in a kicking specialist that works with 3 NFL kickers and worked 3 times with our kickers. And he told me after the last session, he said, I've never seen a kid that has improved as much in between sessions as that young man. And he said, I'll tell you this. He said his aptitude is pretty special. But I know he's a good soccer player, so we'll see where his opportunities lie and encourage him there. Luis Torres, defensive lineman, defensive end. Has a very infectious attitude, always got a smile on his face, hard worker, he's a good learner, and he's a kid that really, really wants to play, and I think we're going to try to find a place for him. Nick Faulkner. Do you know William Morris? See if you see William Morris up there. He's the beneficiary of Nathan getting hurt. We had really not planned on Nick being much of a varsity player this year. As you can tell, he's rangy. He's got good height. Had a brother that played here. We feel like he can be a very good player, but we just knew he was a little light to put out there on the edge. But Coach Carpenter did an outstanding job with him, getting him prepared, and it was just really, really neat to see Nick progress. And Nick now comes in as a returning player, somebody that's going to have a lot of reps under his belt, and we're going to expect a lot out of you, Nick. So with that, that's the sophomore class. And I hope these guys, we'll see these guys complete and stay with it, because a lot of these guys will play some football. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I've made a lot of comments that you're going to hear me make throughout the night. Don't be surprised. I make the comment, going to have an opportunity to play. Every kid on this field has an opportunity to play, but if he waits until August to play, he ain't going to play. He's hearing me say that up here because he needs to know he's going to win a position in the weight room. And he's going to win it out there on the field sprinting. And he's going to win it during spring practice, and he's going to win it during the summer. Every kid's got an opportunity to play. There's not one kid on this field, this team right now, that we don't see having the opportunity or the capability to help our football team. But it's not on the coach. It's not on you as mom and dad. It's on him. And I'm excited to see what all these guys are going to grow up to be for us. Now our junior class, number 3, McCall Alexander, cornerback. McCall's a fast guy. In fact, we went to FCA camp, and one of the schools in Atlanta came up behind me and was walking with me and looked at me and said, that right there may be one of the best-looking kids I've ever seen. So I asked him, are you a modeling agency? And needless to say, I went to him and told him, I said, listen, everybody thinks you're a player. You got to be a player. And that's my challenge to McCall this year. It's time to be a player. He's got all the skills and all the ability. It's just got to get up here. And I think once it does, you're going to be able to help us, McCall. Next, Isai Hernandez. This guy can do a lot with a football. He can kick it about every way you can imagine, and probably some that you can't. He does some things that's a tremendous advantage to us that we don't get to take advantage of a lot of times, because to be honest with you, I don't have the guts sometimes. But we're going to this year. We're going to have to squeeze out every single opportunity we can get and every advantage. And so he's going to be a busy young man for us next year on our kickoff coverages. Next, Jace Chastain, outside linebacker. Jace is a guy that, as you guys remember, had just a horrendous injury his sophomore year. And just being honest with you, as a coaching staff, I don't know if any of us, I'm just being honest, I don't know if many of us held out hope for what kind of player could he be. Because as I spoke with as Dr. Easley will attest, as I spoke with his surgeon, you don't ever know the mental side. The physical side, I mean, there's a 1/4-inch titanium rod in there. It's not going to bend. It's not going to break. But the question is how does he play? And the great thing about Jace was he had a tenacity that overcame any fears that he had. And when he came out on the field, he came out ready to play. This year, he's a very dynamic defensive player for us. He had 110 tackles, 7 tackles for losses, 2 sacks, an interception, 2 pass breakups, 1 fumble recovery, and 5 forced fumbles. A lot of eyes are going to be on him this next year, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how good can he be. Next, Travis Nielsen, free safety. Great thing about Travis is this year he stepped up and became a leader. One of the things about Travis is he's a guy that sometimes, even though his friends may not believe this, on the field, he can turn mute real quick, and you can't get anything out of him. And so with that being the case, we challenged him. Coach Thompson challenged him. Coach Carpenter challenged him and told him for him to be on the field as a free safety, he had to be vocal. He had to be an audible leader. He couldn't just be a player. And it was so great to see him step up. And he wasn't perfect. He didn't do it great, but he did it good enough for us. And now this year we're going to expect great. And I'm sure that he's going to be that type of person. Next, Jordan McKinney, cornerback. Jordan arguably is probably the best athlete on the team if you could kind of categorize that as far as athleticism and other things. If you put goofiness in it, then it goes off the chart. So he's there, got goofy in him too. His mom would go, she's amen, and so she'd go with it. But here's the thing about it. The thing about Jordan is Jordan tied for the lead with the most interceptions this year in all classifications. He had 8 interceptions. I've gotten a ton of phone calls. People want to know who is number 22. He had 61 tackles, which for a shutdown corner, you got to understand this. 61 tackles for a shutdown corner is one of 2 things. He's either not doing what we're coaching him to do, or he's a great athlete. I'm going to assume he's a great athlete, but I know every now and then he's probably not doing what he's supposed to do, and he's coming up making tackles. But he's got great instincts. He's a great player in between the hashes, and you can't ever take advantage of that too much. And he's a guy that next year is going to have to really step up. He had 9 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, and 5 tackles for losses, and that's phenomenal for a corner. And like I said, he's a guy that next year our defense will have to be built around his experience because he'll be a 3-year starter for us. Next, Austin Mills, outside linebacker. Love him. Austin's an extremely quick player. He's a special teams bullet. The great challenge, I think, for us as a staff, but I think the great challenge for him is to help us expand his role this year. What more can he do to help our football team, whether it's on defense, offense, special teams, whatever. He needs to help us see how far we can expand his role. And a lot of that starts with the brain, but it also starts with just being there and learning as we go. So excited to see Austin next year. Next, Tyler Nolan, tailback, receiver. Obviously, Tyler is probably the most exciting player on Friday nights on the field. All-purpose leader for yardage in the region and for us. He was the top athlete in the region, 89 rushes for 685 yards, 8 yards per rush, had 11 receptions for 279, that's 26 yards per catch. 12 TDs, 7 punt returns for 129 yards, that's 20 yards a return. 13 kickoff returns for 306 yards, that's 24 yards a return. And total of 1,399 total yards. That right there, 1,399, is a little just right at 30% of our total offensive production came out of Tyler Nolan. It's good to have that coming back next year, and there'll be a lot of eyes on him as well. Next, Elijah Blackwell, wide receiver, outside linebacker. Elijah's a guy that I love his attitude. He's always great, always smiling. He learned our system, transferred in, picked up on things, began to get accustomed to the weight room. And this year I've got a lot of high expectations for Elijah. I think that it's just going to come down to what does he want to do this year. Ramon Ornelas, wide receiver. Ramon is a very quick player. Ramon, a hard worker, got good hands, shows up every day for work. And as a senior next year, he's gonna have to find his place and see how he fits in. It may be as a role player, but it's going to have to be a place somewhere because he's got something that we need, which is speed. Drake McCowan, running back. Drake's a very physical player. I've been most impressed with him during the basketball season, and I affectionately say this, he is a mule. He is a guy that will do, and Peter would probably attest to this, he kind of plays in that group a little bit. They're the guys that come in, and man, they're just working hard under the boards. I mean, they're getting in there and they're fighting and they're banging around. I watched him this week, Saturday at Woodland, with guys that were twice as big as him get in there and just fight and fight and fight. And that's going to be a quality we're going to rely on this fall. There's a way that he runs that we're going to continue to work with and continue to make him. He's going to be a Division I recruit next year. We're going to make sure of it. Next, Logan Pender, fullback. Logan continues to get more comfortable carrying the football. The great thing about Logan is that Logan is the reason why we gained over 5,000 yards this year. He's a guy that stays in a lot of times in pass coverages and blocks and takes on the blitzing linebacker, the outside end. He's a guy that's leading the way for leading the way for the tailbacks, protecting the quarterback. He has a very, very important responsibility. The great thing about Logan is he realizes, along with Keith, fullback is not a position one person can play because you can't take that kind of punishment, and you see it. You're seeing it on the news right now. Most of the concussions are coming out of that position. And so we try to make sure we're always playing those guys in tandem. And these two guys have worked real well together and look forward to seeing how they'll help us next year. Ja'Cory Stewart. Life according to Pi. This guy right here is a very unique personality, and he has a great strength about him, and that strength goes beyond just his weight room strength. I've gotten to know him personally, and he has a tremendous character about him, and it's a character that we need on this football team. It's also a character that we need on our defense, and he can be a player for us at nose guard. We've tried other positions, and they just don't fit him well. Nose guard is a place where he can be himself. And we've played a lot of nose guards, a lot smaller than that with Coach Bennett, and we're going to get a lot of mileage out of him this year. Next, Wyatt Irwin, wide receiver. I would definitely put Wyatt in the category, but I would definitely put Wyatt in the same category with Kyra. Completely underutilized, but definitely not underappreciated. Over the last 2 months, particularly basketball season, I watched this guy do some really, really amazing things athletically. Next year, he's going to be an exciting player to watch. He's going to do some neat things. I'm just telling you. My expectations are probably as high for him as anybody that I've coached in a long time. Next, Josh Marino, outside linebacker. Josh, another guy that had an injury, another guy that had an injury, came back from a knee surgery and just really played very well for us. Played some special teams. Next year, I see him continuing to play on special teams. Hopefully, he's going to work his way into the starting lineup. If he doesn't, he's a guy that's got the attitude that knows that he can make us better every Friday night. And I'm excited to see exactly all the things that he's going to take on this offseason, because that's what it's going to come down to is the offseason. Next is David Rocco, linebacker. I'm coaching his little brother right now in basketball, Levi. And it's so funny. Levi is one of Cross's best friends. And it's so funny because when I see this look in Levi's face at 7-year-old, over the last year, I've seen that look in this 16-year-old's face a couple of times when Coach Carpenter is putting something in or we're adjusting on the fly. The great thing about David is that David is always up to the task. Now, it may take 2 or 3 reps. It may take a series. And it may take us having to kind of revamp some things. But he's always trying to be exactly what you want him to be for our defense to work. And, you know, there's a lot of glory positions on the football field. The Mike linebacker is not one of those. Not for about 20 years when all these guys will be sitting around a barn somewhere and say, man, you know, that guy's crazy. That's when you get your kudos. Right now you don't because they're all getting the press. He's the guy that is running in A-gap and hitting Logan Pender. He's the guy that's taking on Hayden Gross every play and giving up 40 pounds. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for David, and he's a guy that next year we're going to depend on heavily because not only is he a returning starter, he's going to have to be a returning leader. Next, Darian Hill, running back. Darian's a guy that really I hate that Darian cannot help us this year because I really felt like he could have helped us this year. I remember what he did to us when he was playing for somebody else, and when he came here, his ability to be a zone runner is going to be something that's going to be very beneficial to us next year. And he's a player that his upside far outweighs the amount of time that we're going to need to spend to get him there. And so Darian got high hopes for you this season as well. Next, TJ Hornsby, outside linebacker. One day, we're going to call this guy Mr. Catamount, and there'll be an award named after him, I promise you. Because if anybody understands team concept, it's TJ. And TJ is infamously known for his words of wisdom at the end of practice. He's always got a good one. But there was this one day, he really had a good one. I mean, y'all remember the day? I don't remember. It was something about a cowboy and something. But it was really good. But the problem is, it kind of lost the moment because everybody was kind of shocked, like, man, that's pretty good. You know? But I'm going to tell you something. I also told our seniors, the reason why he talks is some of you guys don't. He steps up. He understands when there's an opportunity to speak, and I've backed away and the coach has backed away, somebody's got to step into that gap. That's actually what the political arena is about. Somebody steps up to the mic. Great thing about TJ is he's not afraid nor ashamed to step up to the mic. And he's going to make his voice known. And TJ, I got a tremendous amount of respect for you because he has no limitations. He may not play on Friday night, but he's got a voice. He may not start his whole career, he's got a voice. And I respect the fact that you make it known. And TJ, I love you. Appreciate all you do for our football team. Next, Jesus Rodriguez. Jesus is just a phenomenal person. One of my great honors as a head coach is to write letters, referral letters, or recommendation letters, or scholarship letters for these guys. And very few times do I cut and paste. There's a couple of times they give it to me on Thursday at 10 o'clock and it's due Thursday at 10:15. So sometimes you get the cut and paste version. But most of these guys, I really spend the time to write about. And Jesus is the guy that allowed me the honor this week to write a referral for him for Boys and Girls Club Student of the Year. And I'm going to tell you something. It's one of the easiest letters I've ever written. In fact, one of my problems was it limited how many words that I could write about him because I could have written a lot about him. He speaks in prisons. He speaks to kids in juvenile delinquent homes. He's a guy that speaks in broken homes. He's a guy that has a greater concern for our community than just a football team. And Jesus, on behalf of our community, we appreciate you and really need you a lot today. Thank you, bud. Andrew Williams, offensive tackle. Andrew is by far the most aggressive offensive lineman that we have, and not just when we go to team meal. It's really all the time. One of the things that we enjoy as a coaching staff is you're always looking for something that's unique when you're watching film. And it is very unique to watch a Sequoia film from kind of sideline level and to see Tyler Nolan or Kelvis Rhodes breaking this long run, and then suddenly there's this lunar eclipse that comes by them, and it's Andrew. And, he's just licking his chops because there's somebody that underweighs him about 100 pounds that in his mind I think he sees as a chicken wing. And he's just going to go kill him. And coaches, how many times would we just be watching it and you're thinking, for a guy to block on the second level is expected if he's going to play in college. But this is a guy that not only works the second levels, which is the linebackers, he's blocking safeties. He's getting down the field. In fact, at Sequoia, he hit a coach. It was great. So, he's got the mentality that we have to have, and we're going to need that next year on the offensive line. Jamel Darville, defensive lineman. Jamel is a guy that's overcome a lot in his career. He's overcome a lot this year. He's had a lot of things going on in his personal life, and he consistently overcomes and is just a great teammate. He works hard. He's a young man that was very solid for us this year, was not somebody that was a star, but at the same time, he was a guy that was dependable. And in the defensive line, that's the most important thing you can have is somebody that just does what they're taught to do. And he proved that he can do that time and time again. And we're going to need that this year, Jamel. I'm very, very proud of you. Neff Guerrero, offensive lineman. Neff is a guy that the size of his heart is probably unparalleled. I love the fact that when we ask for somebody, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a starter or a scout team player, Neff's going to be one of the first ones out. He's going to be one of the first guys that goes on the blocks and calls somebody out. He's a guy that wants to be important. He wants to be depended on. And that's very important. He and I had a talk one time, and I remember him saying that to me. I just want to be depended on. And Neff, you are depended on in a lot of ways, but we're going to depend on you next year and give you that opportunity. Next, Jake Myers, defensive end. I love you, man. Jake is probably, if I think back to some of the conversations that I had with a lot of coaches, particularly as we went through the year, speaking to coaches, he's probably one of the most underrated players that was on our defense. And that's real easy. When you've got some of the seniors that we've had that we're going to talk about later, it is easy to kind of get overlooked, and rightfully so. But he did not get overlooked by coaches. He may have been overlooked by media, may have been overlooked even by some parents, but he was not overlooked by our coaches, nor the coaches in our region. And in a position that is very prototype, very X tall and X wide and X fast and all these things. He don't fit that mold, but what he fits the mold is in his effectiveness. I think Coach Carpenter maybe one day said it. I don't remember what he said, but he basically, to kind of paraphrase it, he just said, Jake's the guy that we know what we're going to get, and it's sometimes going to be more than what we expect. I think that's a neat quote because what that said is he's always going to do his job and he's going to do a little bit more, but more importantly, there's one particular play at Sequoia, I remember, where he goes Superman. Well, it turns around, Cale does the same thing again. And when I was talking to Coach Cook from Cale, Jake was the first guy that he asked me about. He said, what year is that guy? And I said, well, he's a junior. He said, we're going to have to probably play him again. So you're now marked. People are watching you, and you're a guy that's going to have to now step up because you're not going to surprise anybody. And it's going to be exciting to see what you do. He had 53 total tackles, had 3 tackles for losses and 1 sack. With that, last who's not here, but a young man that has been tremendously helpful to me as a coach and to our staff is a young man by the name of Nathaniel Mays, who is one of our managers. He could not be here because of family commitment, and he's one of our managers. So with that, that's the junior class. This group of seniors attended more workouts than any group that we've ever had. Now, I've said that every year and been safe in saying that because with Coach Thompson and I and with our coaching staff, the regular schedule, we know how many workouts they've worked. And I'm just telling you, this group's done more than any group ever has, and they did more this year. And as I mentioned, we had some tough conversations about what's reasonable to expect and about what we can be. But we're here today because coaches threw out a challenge, and these young men stepped up to the challenge. They found a common goal. This was the highest GPA of any group of seniors in the last 5 years. Most number of GPA awards. We had 7, 8, 9, 11 last year, and 18 this year. Most games played in 3 seasons, 35 games since 2007. Has only lost 10 times in the last 3 years. Only 2 region losses. 9 of the 10 were to playoff teams. 6 were to teams that have either played for or won a state championship. And 2 of the 3 years they've been beat, they've been put out by the eventual state champion. So to me, this is a team that knows what it takes to be a winner. They know what it takes to step up. They know what it takes to work. And I want you seniors to know there's not one day in the midst of everything we've gone through that I've not been proud to be your coach, and I know your coaches have felt the same way. We love you and appreciate you. So let's start with, first of all, Tommy Ridley, manager. Dr. Ridley's the smartest guy I know. He's very diligent. He made a very grown-up decision for what was best for him and our team. He had some injuries that he had dealt with, and he looked for somewhere else he could help our team. He was invaluable to me, to our defensive coaching staff. He actually became a graduate assistant of sorts for Coach Carpenter, doing a lot of video work and a lot of data input. He's got great character and a joy to be around, and he's somebody that I don't mind telling you, I hope my son one day tells me he wants to be like Tommy. Next, Eder Moore, outside linebacker. I won't give you everything about Eder because that'll probably be given later, but what I am going to say to you is this year, after playing only 7 games, 68 tackles, 9 tackles for losses, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 3 PBUs. Most people call that a good career. That was a good 7-game season for Eder. Overall, best player I think I've ever coached. I've had more comments made by other coaches about him than any player in 22 years of being here. The referrals by other coaches to college coaches is amazing. There's no doubt in my mind he's a Division I college football player, but he loves soccer, and I'm glad that we got to share him and be a part of his life. He overcame much, including injury this year, to be a part of the team, and he's definitely a role model for every player on this team about how to work and prepare. And I'm only going to tell one funny story about Eder because I think it's worth noting how he got on the field. We go to Statesboro, and as Randall has mentioned, I just knew if we could get him to the field, that would be important. And Coach Carpenter and Coach Thompson had kind of said to me, you know, Coach, well, I mean, when do you think we might get him out? I said, guys, I'm telling you, I don't know if he's going to do it, but I said, we're going to try one more game. He didn't bite during the scrimmage game and didn't bite during practice. So I had one last chance, and so we were at Statesboro. And a limited amount of space, and so to make sure we had enough space, we put all the varsity guys inside in the air-conditioned dressing room, and we kept all the JV guys and other guys out on the bus. And so I told the guys, I said, get up, get your stuff, and let's go ahead and head up. You guys are going to stay on the bus, and you guys are going to go in. So we start walking in, and Eder was about to walk in, and I stepped up and put my hand on Eder. I said, Eder, hey, this is just for the full-time players, if you'll just go back to the bus. Well, about that time, smoke starts coming out, you know, and I'm telling you, he wore the sidelines out, pacing all night long, back and forth. So about that time, when we got back, we had not, I bet we hadn't walked in and been in the locker room, I bet 3 minutes. He said, I need to talk to you. And so I'm thinking, all right, he's either quitting because he's mad, we're going to fight, or we got him. And he walked in and he said, I can't do this. I'll be out there to play on Monday. I'm going to anything you want me to do over the weekend. And I said, well, you might need to tell Coach Thompson because he'll probably kiss you. So go do that and get that out of the way right now. So he did, and Eder, it's been a privilege coaching you and look forward to see what you're going to do in the future. Next, Charlie Martin, defensive back. Charlie accepted the challenge to play a new position his senior year. He stepped up big. He was picked on numerous times because of his size and being on the opposite side of Jordan. But we never worried as a staff. He made big play after big play, time and time again. And when I look at some of the things that he accomplished on the field, it doesn't amaze me. It doesn't really surprise me. But what I kind of wished is I wished we had another year, because I felt like Charlie was just beginning to play his best football right there toward the end of the year. So thank you, Charlie. We love you. Next, Peter Sigmund, wide receiver. Love you, buddy. Good job. Peter became the go-to receiver really during 7-on-7s this summer. He had 33 receptions for 671 yards, 19.8 yards per catch. Had 2 rushes for 99 yards. That's pretty good stats. 13 TDs. He and Peyton had a chemistry that was really all the great combinations have. Worked hard during practice to become a great possession receiver. He used his body well and could adjust to how the defense was playing him during the game. He could play at the next level, but he's chose not to. There's other opportunities for him, I think, as a student, not just as a student athlete. But with that, Peter, you're going to be missed, and appreciate all you did for us. Next, Kiko Rodriguez, kicker. Kiko's a 3-year starter, dependable, consistent, worked hard every day, Coach Mayo's favorite player, a good mentor to our young kickers. He was 55 of 58 in extra points this year, 4 of 6 in field goals, 67 points over his 3 years as a starter. He was 117 of 125 for 94%. And as Coach Napier and some of our older coaches say, that's an amazing statistic to know that many times over 3 years. So, Kiko, thank you for all you've done. Great job. Next, Nate Mays, linebacker. One of the most explosive players to really watch on film. He's and I'm using the words of Coach at Wake Forest, he's a highlight film library for the most part. 148 tackles, 2 tackles for losses, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups. I felt like he was lost in our defense until the third or fourth game of this year. And then it seemed like he kicked it into another gear. I remember him stepping up at Rome and talking at halftime and saying some things. But he really turned the corner at Sequoia and became such a leader on the field as well as off the field. He was chosen to play in the GACA All-Star game. He was Region 7 AAA Co-Defensive Player of the Year, and he's going to be continuing his playing career at Wake Forest University. Proud of you, Nate. Love you. Peyton Feraldi, quarterback. A very special player. Has to be in the top 3 production quarterbacks in the history of Dalton High School. Coach Chappell did not keep stats, and Randall's probably the closest to a statistician that we would have over the last 20 years. And I can't imagine. I know that in my 22 years of being here and the time that I wasn't here and I was at college, no one had the stats that he had in 1 year, but necessarily in a career as well. This year, 136 completions, 208 attempts, 65.4% completion percentage, passed for 2,223 yards, 30 TDs, 6 interceptions, and 52 rushes, which included sacks, for 223 yards. He was best, to me, at balance in the field, spreading the ball around. In one game, he threw to 9 different receivers, 9 different people touched the ball. He was a coach on the field, as Coach Napier would tell you. At the quarterback position, that is a position where a young man cannot just know what he has to do. He has to know what everybody else is doing. He's got to know the blocking scheme, he's got to know the running back steps, and he's got to know the routes. And Peyton laid the template, to me, of how a quarterback should prepare, going back to his sophomore year and really going back to his freshman year, and the hunger and the desire that he had to be the starting quarterback at Dalton High School. And that was to watch his development over the years and to see where he's at is a tremendous thing that I'm especially proud of, to not only see it under our tutelage, but to see the way he worked with Coach Napier and the relationship that they had. He was an All-State honorable mention, Region 7 5A Co-Offensive Player of the Year, Daily Citizen Player of the Year. Even better off the field was a special relationship that our head coaches will tell you that all head coaches have with quarterbacks. And it's just on a different level. They're the guys that are the most like you as a head coach. They're going to get way more credit than they deserve, and they're going to get way more blame than they deserve. And Peyton never one time didn't take it with grace. Not one time did he ever look at it and shy away from it. Not one time did he ever not be willing to burden that responsibility. And I think you're a great role model for our sons. I think you're a great role model for your teammates. And I think you're going to be a great role model for a lot of people moving forward. He's going to continue his future as well at Lindsey Wilson College. So we're looking forward to seeing him in the future. Kelvis Rhodes, tailback. Kelvis is a very exciting runner. He's electric. He was his first run was for 67 yards against Murray County for a touchdown. I remember the first thing that I asked him about touchdown. He said his mom was afraid he was going to get hurt. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, she's going to have to get over that because he just ran 67 yards for a touchdown. We didn't have anybody else that could do that. And it was just great to see that young man grow to what he's become over this last year. We knew he was special. This year he rushed 107 times for 1,053 yards, 9.84 yards per carry, 10 receptions for 145 yards, 14.5 yards per catch, 13 touchdowns. He rushed for over 3,400 yards in his career. That's a lot. A selfless player who took a reduced role this year in order for our offense to be more productive and to help the team. He was a great mentor. Many times I saw him being the teacher on the field that we needed out of that position. Overall, a wonderful young man to be around. He's another one that could have an opportunity to play at the next level, but I think it's going to be based on what he wants to do, and I'm excited to see what that's going to be, and we'll support him in whatever that is. Chipper Elrod, defensive end. "54 tackles, 5 tackles for losses, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery, 1 caused fumble. He is definitely one of the hardest working kids in the weight room, young man, that I've ever seen. In fact, we showed a clip, Coach Thompson did, of him his first year. How much? 148? How much? If that, maybe 148 pounds. And to see 227 pounds today, what he's become a true man. He showed it on the field. More importantly, though, this is a young man that battles diabetes daily. And many times would check his diabetes on the sidelines, in between plays, in between series. Wore a pump when we'd be running. Somebody that needed to know what we might be doing that day so that he could adjust his nutrition. So a young man that's very responsible, not only to himself but to our team as well, because we needed him. We needed Chipper Elrod on the field. There's a guy that's always the great player, but then there's the player that's always needed. Great players come and go, but players that are needed are hard to replace. Chipper was a player that was needed because of his emotion and his passion and the way he played on the field and the way that he loved his teammate. He made great adjustments on the field, real time. He was a coach on the field and off. Many times I heard Coach Carpenter yelling stuff at him. He would then in turn yell it to his teammates. Very trusted by our defense and our offensive staff. As always, he's a guy that's another great friend, someone that I'm going to continue to look for down the road some way when we all get out of this football business. But right now, he's going to be playing at the next level, and I think we're waiting to see where he's going to decide that might be. So we're excited to see you. Thank you, Chipper. Chase Westfall, tight end. Chase has a unique combination of size and speed. He's truly a great combination of ability to block and catch. 20 receptions for 289 yards, 14.5 yards per catch, 3 TDs. Probably made 2 of the greatest catches that I've ever seen. One was against Alexander his junior year, and the other one was against Cass this year, a one-handed grab in the end zone. I actually sent it in to ESPN because I thought it was a play of the day worthy. It's made our play of the day. It'll be our play of the day for a long time. But a guy that just is really, really gifted. Never graded below 95% all season, even though he spent a lot of time unable to practice early in the year. He was still cerebrally able to play. Physical blocker, great middle of the field target for the quarterback. Could have been perhaps one of our best defensive players, if the truth were to be known, and if I would have let him play over there. Had an intent for him to play 20 to 30 snaps on defense this year. But because of injuries, we just weren't able to get him over there until later in the year. As I said, very physical and may be a guy that I think is going to be a star at the next level. I really think he is. He's signed to play, or he's committed to Mercer, and there's probably a lot of bigger places that probably he could go, but he's committed there because of the education, and I think he's going to be a star at the next level for sure. Hayden Gross, offensive guard. Congratulations. Love you. Another great offensive lineman that's come through here. Was chosen to play in the GACA All-Star Classic. A true craftsman, very cerebral, 3-year starter, confident in what he does. A very silent leader. Not a guy that was very vocal at times, but a guy that we needed to be vocal. And when he was very like E.F. Hutton, as Coach said. Everybody listened to what he had to say. I know a lot of times I brought him in, and he always had the heartbeat of the team and would always shoot with me straight. Very physical, yet very smart. I would project him as a center at the next level due to his height, but he may or may not play. I think that's still to be determined, depending on what opportunities are available to him. But Hayden had a great career. Uriel Perez, defensive tackle. One word I have for him, and that's this word. It's the word solid. It's solid. Solid in his character, solid in his play, solid in his preparation, solid in his expectations for how he would play, how his teammates would play. 43 tackles, 6 tackles for losses, 3 sacks, 1 pass breakup. Smart player that consistently played oversized and was outmatched all year. Numerous compliments I got from other coaches about him and how his value to our defense. Utilized every possible advantage that a defensive lineman could have. Quick step, great leverage, explosive punch. Played well with his hands, and he never, ever gave up. Many games, I'd be amazed at how well he would play with someone that clearly 100 to 120 pounds bigger than him, but yet he always found a way to overcome. And if there's anybody that I would say portrays the statement, your best will get us beat, do the job, Uriel Perez is the guy that I'm always going to attach to that, because that's the guy that got the job done week in and week out. Thank you, Uriel. We appreciate you. Daniel Hurtado, offensive guard. Dependable until his injury. Did not start, but yet played as much as probably anyone in our starting rotation due to injuries and his versatility. Worked hard to know what to do. He overcame many things and was a guy that athletically and personally, like I said, was a guy that we could depend on. He's a wrestler, and he's had a few injuries there as well, but he's been a very productive part of our team and someone that definitely made us a better offense this year. Evan Stewart, offensive guard. Hey, right here, Evan. Definitely one of the most talkative people I've ever been around. A man for many words. You don't get many words in when you're talking to him. Evan is truly a silent giant. He's a guy that the first college coach that I introduced him to, he asked me, he said, does he have a speech problem? And I said, no. I said, he's just a really, really quiet guy, and he's kind of measuring you up. Coach came back a couple of rounds. I introduced him to him again, and he came back and he said, he talks my ears off. Of course, at that point, I kind of thought, well, did I introduce him to the right player? I remember who they got out of class. But Evan is a guy that was a pure power player. He was great one-on-one, raw strength. He struggled most of his career with a back injury, but he never used it as an excuse. He's a smart player, very versatile. We played him at guard. We played him at tackle, played him on both sides of the center. Even though he didn't speak much, like I said, he let his pads do all the talking for him. He should have an opportunity to play at the next level. He's just a guy that's probably going to be second tier. And after this first wave gets looked at, I think he's someone that's going to have an opportunity as well. The great thing about Evan is Evan was a guy that every day would show up. And if he was injured, he would still show up. And that's an important trait, because some of our guys get injured and they're in the Samoa Desert somewhere. We can't find them. This guy, even injured, he showed up every day and let us know that he was here and he's working on rehab and he's trying to get back on the field. So, Evan, great job. Warner Braun, defensive end. Warner is a prime example of fighting the dog and not the dog in the fight. Huge heart. True love was wrestling and used it really to his advantage. Had 43 tackles, 6 tackles for losses, and 2 sacks. He became a phenomenal pass rush specialist for us and edge player. Great motor that never ran out of gas. outstanding use of his hands. In fact, one of the things that a few college coaches have mentioned to me, even though they've not been recruiting him, was the fact of just how well he played with his hands, and that his skill level was that of a lot of college linemen. And so with that, the great thing about Warner is I think that he's going to be a fighter on the field as well as off the field, and I look for great things. He won the respect out of every single person that he played against. So very proud of you, Warner. Great job this year. Logan Mathis, offensive lineman. Logan was a great surprise this year. He knew he had to help us. We knew he had to help us. We just didn't know where. Worked hard in the weight room. I remember one day in particular that Coach Thompson called me, and generally when Coach Thompson calls me, that's not a good thing. That means something's happened at school, or something's going on in the weight room, or something's happened. And this was a pleasant call. I called him, and Coach was kind of giddy. And so I was like, Coach, what's going on? He said, hey, you're not going to believe what Logan Mathis maxed. And that began a conversation between Coach and I, and at which point I began to involve the other coaches. And the point was that Logan accepted where he had to get better. And some of you guys ought to hear this. It was in the weight room. He was working hard on the field, but he was missing some of those intangibles. And he took advantage of the weight room. He took advantage of the class. He took advantage of all-season conditioning. He took advantage and went to some camps. And he became a better player. And he stepped up, and he really, really worked hard he became a great first-step guy, very smart, played every position on the offensive line over the last 2 years. True professional and a very, very silent leader, but one that definitely we look forward to. And he makes a great peach milkshake, too. So anyhow, that's Logan Mathis. Thank you, Logan. Next, Chris Hicks, offensive lineman. Clearly, Chris is our biggest player. This way. Had to keep him away from Gerardo in case he was hungry. He didn't. Chris reminds me of a guy that I played with named Brad Johnson, who was my best friend when I was at Auburn. And he was a guy that did not love to play football, but he loved to compete. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's days moms and dads don't feel like going to work. We don't love our job, but we love to provide for our family. And I think Chris learned that lesson that just because you don't love something doesn't mean you can't give everything you have to it. And by the end of the year and by the end of Chris's time here at Dalton, I saw Chris pouring himself into practice. And it was limited sometimes. It was limited for all of us at some level. But in games, I saw him take pride in his job. I saw him take pride in the fact of what he was doing. And I think when I look at that Chris, one of the things that surprised many coaches, and particularly ourselves, he was a guy that when you look down the field and you'd see Andrew running down the field, a lot of times Chris would be down the field too. Now, Chris had one little neat thing about him. And I don't know what Coach Mayo called this. I'm not sure what technique it was. But if Chris didn't look at you, that meant you weren't going to make the tackle. Is that right, Coach? There would be times a guy would line up outside of Chris, and if he couldn't get to him, he would just kind of ignore him and block the next guy. And we'd be going, what's he looking at? And so one day I talked to her and said, Chris, do you not see that guy? And he said, well, there's got to be somebody behind me. And so we had to kind of go, you know what, we got to put somebody behind him. The great thing about Chris is that he worked hard, became a guy that we depended on, and I think Northside was maybe one of the best games. It was one of the games that we had to have him. So, Chris, thank you for all you did. Very intimidating player, but at the same time, just a great guy and a great friend. Next, Evan Pope, center. I'm very proud of this player. Evan, as a scout team player pretty much my whole life. This is a guy that I watched for 3 years just get the dog tar beat out of him. For 3 years as a freshman. Center gets hurt, he's got to come up. Instead of being a freshman, he's got to come up and be a JV player. Sophomore year, gets it beat out of him. Junior year, gets it beat out of him. And I remember this season when we went off to our Carson Newman Clinic, the one thing that I told the coaches, I said, we got to find a place for this young man to help us. Somehow, some way, what can he do? And we needed a center. You guys have heard me say that before. It worries me more to lose a center than to lose a quarterback. You can direct snap to a tailback, so you don't need a quarterback sometimes. You got to have a center. Somebody's got to get the ball off the ground. So to me, that guy is the most valuable player on the team. And we were looking for that. The other thing about that, though, is about 178 pounds is about all we could get to. I think we got him to 182 and he got sick, right? So about 180 was about all we get. And you know, as Doug and Mr. Renz will tell you, there ain't a lot of 175-pound linemen nowadays. In fact, there's really none. So what it is you've got to understand what your role is, and you've got to understand what your advantages are. He tried everything he could to get bigger and did what most he had. He started at center. He formed a great combination with Logan. He became a very selfless player because he understood there was teams we were going to play that were going to put a 300-pound nose guard over him that he could not even hold, much less block. And he accepted the fact that Logan had to play center that game. And he might go in at guard and play in the rotation, but sometimes he didn't. He didn't complain, not one single time. Every time I looked at him, he was out there. He was encouraging. He was coaching. He was being a team player. He was a selfless player that looking at over things, he was an overcomer, not an overachiever. And I like to make that point very clear. Overcomer. He overcame things that were bigger than him. I have high expectations for him off the field as well, because I know he's going to be something great, and he's our highest GPA. So thank you. Appreciate you. Love you. Francisco Calderon, wide receiver. Frankie. Frankie is a guy that you've already heard some good things said about him, and I'm probably just going to echo those things. He's a great teammate, maybe the most valuable teammate that we had. All players know that nowadays they want to know what's in it for them. They want to know what can they do to help make the team better, but not Frankie. Frankie asked every day what could he do to make the team better. He was a breath of fresh air to be around somebody that always thought about others first. He never once asked me about playing time. He never once complained about practice. Never once did I get a phone call from somebody. He always wanted to be a part of the team first. He did all this while working another job, as a lot of our kids do, but he simply enjoyed the journey. He knew his limitations, and he did not let that reduce his expectation and his enjoyment of the ride. And he did everything he could to be the best he could be. Frankie, I appreciate you being a part of our team and love you. Tyler Britton, wide receiver. Wes Welker. I've called him that since he was in 7th grade. Great possession receiver. He used his body well. And I'm going to say this, and this is probably not a good thing to say in a mixed crowd or in a big crowd, but I'll tell you this. He used prejudice as an advantage. And these players know what I'm talking about. When you look out there, and here's a guy 5 foot whatever, and he's playing a guy 6 foot something, listen, every one of these guys will tell you that guy in his mind starts going, I can beat that guy. And I watched this against Colquitt County in the 7-on-7 because Tyler made the catch that we needed to have to get us in the game. And why? Because this guy had been running that jar the whole mouth the whole time at Tyler. And I'm sure you know Tyler well enough. He's jarring back a little bit with him, you know, probably telling him how much he loved him and come to church. But at the end of the day, he's talking to him, and he set this guy up as beautifully as you could do. And just runs it, and of course Peyton puts it right on the spot, and he catches it. And he did that for us a lot of the times. And I say that because I think he's somebody that has great hands, a good blocker. He was very sneaky, deceptively quick. I never thought I'd say those words together, but I am. It's a Banquet. Deceptively quick. Definitely a team favorite who made some key catches. He did the most with what he had when he caught the ball. And I think that's a great story in life. When you get the ball, just do the most you can do with it. And I think Tyler did that. Tyler, we appreciate you. Thank you. Jake Nichols, defensive lineman. Jake moved here at the end of school year, and he fit right in. A lot of the guys took him right in. He had a great personality. He played through an injury. He gave us plenty of good reps this year, understood his role, knew that he probably didn't have a chance of being a starter, but could he get 5 or 10 or 12 reps as he went through the season? And he did, made the most of those opportunities. He increased his role as the season went on. He loved the game, and he played with great heart. And with that, we appreciate, Jake, everything that you've done. So with that, that's your senior class of 2014.
Couple people. I want to thank my wife and my 2 sons. I grew up a coach's son, and I know how hard it is to not have dad around. And you got to have someone strong at home, and I'm truly blessed to have my wife. Whew. I'm not going to get emotional, but I also want to thank someone that probably doesn't want to be thanked, but I'm going to thank Coach Nape. as a young coach, like Coach said, I've only been doing this 6 years. And Coach Nape has taught me a lot more about football than most people ever know, but he's also taught me how to be a dad, how to be a husband. And in faces of adversity, he is someone that I truly am blessed to know. And I just want to say thank you, Coach. You mean the world to me. Whew. All right. Tonight I have the honor, the great honor, of recognizing the 4 captains for the 2014 football team. I wrote down some things that I thought personified these guys. I have to do all of them, so I'm not going to talk about them individually. I'll talk about them as a group. Being named team captain is quite the honor. The position of captain is given to those whom the rest of the team respect and trust to lead the team in the right direction. I should have taken out given. It's earned. However, with this great honor comes responsibility. A captain must be accountable for a bad performance or bad practice. They're also expected to perform in the clutch and lead team to victory. And these 4 guys, they're the backbone, they're the lifeblood of this football team. Each of these young men display these characteristics way beyond what they should, and I'm truly blessed to know them as well. I have 2 boys, and I hope that each one of them, I wish they would get to know them. They're only 2 and a month old, but I wish they'd get to know Uriel Perez, Hayden Gross, Peyton Veraldi, and Chipper Elrod, 2014 captains.
Every year I get the honor of presenting the defensive MVP, and every year it seems like the individual that gets this award is somebody we describe as coachable. And this year's athlete's no different. But what does separate this player is how he was coachable and his ability to adapt. He came to us after 3 years with a different school, and if I'm not mistaken, he had a different coach every year. On the field, Nate possesses tremendous talent, but really what separates him is how he took our coaching and how he did it well. To me, what sets Nate apart is his ability to be coached in the mental side of the game. And we asked him to do a lot, and he did everything he could do to make it happen. It's my pleasure to introduce the 2014 Defensive MVP to Nate Mays.
Today our pastor shared this scripture in church today, and I wanted to share it with you. First of all, let me say that if all we did was to coach or teach or manage children, then we would have failed greatly. Psalm 145, 1 through 4, I will extol you, my God, O King, and I will bless your name forever and ever. One generation shall praise your works to another and declare your mighty acts. That's what we're doing with these young men. The offensive MVP this year, by the way, earlier, I'm actually second only to Coach Bennett there with 37 years instead of 35. But anyway, let me tell you some of the offensive stats were amazing this year. We had 375 run plays for 2,703 yards. That's 64%. And then of our plays, and then we had 209 pass plays for 2,200 yards, 36%. We were 55% run and 45% pass. We averaged 38 points per game for 12 games, and this young man had a lot to do with it. We had two people who tied for the number of touchdowns, I believe. This fellow actually had a total of 13 touchdowns, 34 receptions for 671 yards, 78 points scored, and played in 10 out of the 12 games. Could have even gotten 1,000 yards, maybe, who knows. But I'll tell you this, he's a pretty special young man too, and he's one of those that we'll miss dearly. Peter Sigmund.
I'm presenting the Jim Arnold Special Team Award, and Kiko left, didn't he? Okay, thought he had everything gone to work. Okay, I can talk bad about him since he's not here. Okay, award goes to a young man whose talent made us a better football team. Now, for the most part, he didn't expect any kind of special treatment, and I want to explain that to you. In the day now where everybody specializes, you know, if you're a specialist, you expect to be treated a little bit different. When I was in high school, we had a guard that kicked off, kicked extra points. Our punter was our free safety, and their backup was a 260-pound defensive tackle. So we didn't have specialists. I get to college, and there's my first exposure. We got a guy, all he does is kick. He had his own uniform. He had his own balls. I don't think he ever traveled with the team. Half the time he didn't warm up with the team. He just knew when he was supposed to be on the field, and he expected special treatment. Okay, Kiko didn't. You know, if we had 6:30 workouts, he's here at 6:30. He's working out with the team, and for the most part, I think everybody liked Kiko. It's hard to tell, okay? But, you know, sometimes specialists are not, they're not on the same wavelength with everybody. Kiko was a part of this team. Whatever we asked him to do, great attitude. Even took part in a lot of our tackling drills as he got to dance around and make fun of the defensive players. But just an outstanding young man. So even Coach Mayo said something nice to him every now and then. And Coach Mayo hates kickers. So the specialist, the Jim Arnold Specialist Award this year goes to Kiko Rodriguez.
My name is Scott Thompson. Of course, I've been here for a while. I'm very blessed to be here. Just like Coach Smith said, my wife gives me an opportunity to get up early in the morning. I get my kids up and get them ready, and then I'm out the door. Half the time during workouts, one of my kids are calling me. I said, Brad, take over. I got to take this when they call. I'm with your child probably more than I'm with mine, and thank you very much for that. I'm going to talk a little bit. I asked Coach coming in here if I could talk a little bit about the weight room before I get into the award I'm giving. This group of young men, these group of seniors have done more than any other group in Dalton High history. You used to talk about what Coach McClurg and they used to do. They weren't a lot of working out. They just had better athletes. This group of young men have come in the morning, have put forth the effort and worked their tail off. And I told them. And every time we get out to warm up in football, I would tell them, 5A doesn't think North Georgia has football. We got to show them. And that was our mindset. They came in with a workmanlike attitude. Some of you may have saw we had a sledgehammer and we had a lunchbox. We came in every day. They came in every day, and worked. And they worked and they worked and they worked. So several years ago when I took over, we wanted to find a way to chart and see how our athletes are improving. We called around and we found Coach Herron, Jeff Herron, that used to be at Camden County. He's now at another school, but he had a point system, a 9-test point system that he got from Nick Hyder. Nick Hyder was a legendary coach of Valdosta State. It consisted of a 40-yard dash, a 10-yard dash, a 5-yard, 15-second slide test, a sled test where you push a 45-pound plate about 25 yards and back, timed. A box jump, a 90-second box jump on a 12-inch box, how many times you could do it. And that was more right there. You see what type of heart a kid had. Right then with 90 seconds, when it really gets tough, what is that young man going to do? We did the broad jump, we did the bench, squat, and the power clean. And there was a point system for that. My first year we had one. You have different levels. We got the top tier is called a mega cat. The next tier is called a super cat. Then you got a champion, a winner, and 911. That means that young man needs help. Okay, but that's fine. A lot of these young men that were on there, that I'm about to talk about, were on 911, and they've improved every year. You can see improvement. Not only is it improvement to see what they have got, to see what improvement me and Coach Smith have done. Are we doing the right thing? If we're not improving, it's our fault because they're putting forth the work. My first year we had 1 mega cat. Second year we had 2. Then we had 3. Last year we had 6. This year we had 11. Had 11 mega cats. These young men, as you saw, I think it was 18 of them, had grade point average above 3.0. Not only did they do that, but they were up at 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes, or 7:30 in the morning. Some of them beat me here, sitting out wait for me to unlock the door to get in here, and they took care of their academics. And I just want you to stand up when I call your name. These are our mega cats. And a couple of these were mega cats last year too. Nate Mays, Kelvis Rhodes, Westfall, Jordan McKinney, Eder Moore, Peter Sigmund, Tyler Nolan, Hayden Gross, Peyton Verali, Chipper Elrod, and Euro Perez. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Now I'm moving on to the Dalton Catamount, the Judge Pertain Leadership Award. Judge Pruden, was a lifelong Catamount supporter and a leader in our community. Vince Lombardi said, leaders are made, they are not born. They are made by hard work, which is the price which all of us must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile. Some of the qualities that Judge Pruden and this year's recipient have are courage, decisiveness, dependability, enthusiasm, integrity, knowledge, loyalty, and unselfishness. This year's winner has made more of a 4-year impact on a team than any team I've ever been a part of through my college days, through my high school days. He didn't do this through his words. He did it through his actions. He would come in before workouts. If we were supposed to be here, the people that don't have first period weight training would come in at 7. Well, this young man would come in at 7 also, and before he did our workout, he would run anywhere from 2 to 4 miles. He put forth the work that he needed to do to get better. It's hard for me to talk about him because my guys are special. All my guys, these guys are so special to me. Some of his 4-year stats. In 2011, he had 129 tackles, 12 for losses, 1 interception. 2012, he had 146 tackles, 13 for losses, 5 interceptions, 2 sacks. 2013, 159 tackles, 14 for loss, 5 for interceptions, 4 sacks, 4 caused fumbles. Averaging in his 4 years over 40 yards punting. This year, through 7 games, 88 tackles, 8 for loss, a total of 9 interceptions throughout his 4 years, and 5 sacks. In my opinion, Eder Moore, I can't see anybody being a better Catamount or putting forth more effort than any young man. You see, his freshman year, he had an opportunity and he took a hold of it. Had a young man go down. We took only, I think, 4 freshmen to Jacksonville State, one of the hardest camps we've ever had. Well, that young man went down, the starter. We needed somebody to fill in. Coach Carpenter put Eder in at linebacker. Halfway through the game, he had a cut on his hand from a helmet. Doctor took him in, going to stitch him up. He said, okay, you're done. Take your shoulder pads off. And Eder said, why? He said, well, I'm about to give this shot to numb it. He said, you're done for the day. He said, well, just give me the stitches without any shot. I think it was like 11 stitches. He got his stitches. He came back out and had 19 tackles. He has started every ball game except for one at Scottsboro. He had to make a big boy decision for his future. And after some hard talks with his parents, he decided to come back out. I love this young man. I've coached him for 4 years. This year's award winner is Eder Moore. I love you, buddy.
For those of you that have been around the Dalton program for a long time, the award that Coach Thompson just gave, the Judge Pruden Award, and the one that I'm about to give, the Golden Helmet Sportsmanship Award, none of you guys laugh that I'm giving this, are probably two of the oldest awards. In fact, I remember a time that was the only two awards that the football team gave, the Leadership Award and the Sportsmanship Award back when I was playing in the late 70s and early 80s. So this is an award that's been around a long time, and it means a lot to me to get to present it. But I started wondering, why did Coach Land pick me to give this award to a guy that I didn't coach? And it kind of dawned on me, wait a minute, who better to comment on a player's sportsmanship than an offensive line coach when he's talking about a defensive lineman? Because every day we're holding him, kicking him, double-teaming him, trapping him, and this guy would get up with a smile on his face, play hard, and just continued right on. Took everything we had to give and just kept fighting time after time. So I'm proud to present the Golden Helmet Sportsmanship Award to Uriel Perez. Good job, buddy.
I'm Coach Long, and I coached the receivers the last 2 years, and I've had 3 seniors this year as my first group of seniors. And fellas, I can't tell you how proud of you I am. I love you with all my heart, and I know you're going to be very successful in the future. 2014 was a fantastic year, and this is a very special celebration. As I have reflected on this season, one Bible verse resonated with me. Proverbs 17:17 reads, "A friend loves forever, and a brother is born for adversity." This team experienced its share of adversity this season, but witnessing the way this team came together in the face of that adversity was truly special. Seniors, congratulations on a great senior year and a great Catamount career. Everything that you receive this afternoon and in the future with the rest of your lives, you completely deserve. You're all great young men, and I'm very proud to be able to say that I've spent 2 years of my life with you. This afternoon, I have the privilege of presenting the Erwin Mitchell Team Spirit Award for the 2nd consecutive year. Erwin Mitchell was an important part of our quarterback club. He helped Coach Chappell bring the traditional red jackets on game day to our program. Last year, we had co-recipients of this award. However, this Catamount worked long and hard to make sure that there was no doubt as to who had the most team spirit. This Catamount is a constant encourager and always has a smile on his face. He is respectful with all of his coaches and fellow teammates, and he always gives great effort. There are few that are more proud to be a part of the Catamount family than this year's Erwin Mitchell Award winner. This year, the unanimous winner for the Erwin Mitchell Team Spirit Award goes to T.J. Hornsby. Congratulations. Congratulations.
I'm presenting the Dr. Conrad Easley Comeback Player Award. First of all, Dr. Easley's here. I just want to thank him for his support over the years, for everything that he's done in the field of orthopedics and sports medicine. So much has changed. Like I said, I've been coaching a long time, and so much has changed in that field and in the care of athletic injuries, and we're very fortunate here in Dalton, Georgia, to have the doctors and to have the facilities and have the athletic care that we have. For a town this size, we've truly been blessed. And again, Dr. Easley is one of the pioneers in that area. And Doc, I just thank you so much. I got sick one night at the game. Everybody went back out, and I'm stretched out in the restroom. And all of a sudden I hear this voice, and he's got a few choice words for me like, I carry this black bag around for a reason. Why didn't you tell me you were sick? And there's Dr. Easley, and he's taking care of me. So you don't know how much we appreciate you, Doctor. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, we got a lot of young men that qualify for this award. We had a bunch of injuries, and I'm glad that Coach Lance said, hey, you choose. I didn't have to do this. Some of it was chosen. All I had to do was come up with what I need to say, so I've got that. The young man that's going to receive this award, injured in preseason, had to have surgery. And like I said, so much has changed now. We thought, you missed the first 2 games, we've got an open date. You come back after the open date, and I thought that was a pretty realistic goal. It wasn't his goal. He was back, ready to go against Calhoun. And I said, okay, we'll spot play you, maybe 10, 12 snaps. Then we got the next week to get you back, and then ready to go after that. That spot play turned into about 50 snaps first game. And the reason it turned into 50 snaps is because he came back and he played at a high level. And he continued to play at that high level. There was a lot of Saturday mornings that after Coach Carpenter had watched the film, I'd get a text or I'd get a phone call, and he'd say, how did he do that? And he did it because of his desire and his intensity. Probably gave up 50 to 60 pounds every time he lined up against somebody, but he made up for it again with effort and determination, and played. I know to you folks probably didn't look like we have different positions on the defensive line. He played every position. There's about 4 different positions, and he played all of them at some time or another. But the Conrad Easley Award this year, comeback player, Warner Braun.
As of tonight, or today, we'll be changing the Positive Influence Award to the Chuck Harris Positive Influence Award. Chuck's been the chaplain of the program for over 20 years. Many of you don't know his story, and many of you may know his story, but a tremendous story. But more importantly, he has spoken to over 1,000 players that have come through this program, and I can't imagine anyone that's more fitting than Chuck Harris. So this year, giving the Chuck Harris Positive Influence Award will be Coach Napier.
Okay, I guess we can all agree that we had an amazing team this year. There's been some statistics thrown out there today. Coach Land's really close. He said 35 for me. It's 36. I'm not complaining. That's good. That's good. But I'm presenting the Chuck Harris Positive Influence Award, and we have a lot of guys on this team that are qualified for this award. But we just happen to have one that's just most qualified. We've talked about some statistics today. Everybody wants their offense to be balanced. Well, we scored 30 touchdowns rushing, and we scored 30 touchdowns passing. Our leading receiver caught 11 touchdown passes. Our leading rusher scored 11 touchdowns. Our leading rusher caught 2 touchdowns. Our leading receiver rushed for 2 touchdowns. Our second leading receiver caught 9 touchdowns. Our second leading rusher scored 9 touchdowns rushing. All right, what that leaves is everybody else on the team had 8 touchdowns rushing and 8 touchdowns receiving. All right, so they're all together. So I think we achieved the goal of a balanced offense this year. I thought you'd like to know all that. When it comes to being a positive influence, I don't really have anything written down. I didn't know I was giving this out until I got here, but I can do it. Yeah, that's her fault. Okay. there's a lot of categories where someone could be a positive influence. On the field, for example, picking your guys up that might be down. This guy did that very well. As a matter of fact, as long as I've known this guy, he's never had a bad day, okay? You even look for it at times, but you never see him having a bad day. He's always been a positive influence, always upbeat, always been positive. I think he probably has invented about 3 or 4 new ways to be a positive influence while he's been a teammate to all you guys. And I know that he's been a positive influence on me. So let's celebrate the Chuck Harris Positive Influence Award. This year it's Peyton Veraldi.
I'm Coach Lawless, and I had the opportunity to play for an awesome coach in college named Phil Jones. And pretty much he built his whole program around pretty much one word. It's relationships. All right, and this next player we're going to talk about, he excelled at all these relationships. Because you see, Coach Jones, he believed in the relationship with your coach, the relationship with your players, and most importantly, the relationship with God. And for a player to excel at all 3 of these, those are the best players to coach. And this next young man, he really excelled at all 3 of these relationships, and it was really a great honor to coach. He was devoted to this program. He was devoted to the weight room. He was devoted to his coaches, his teammates, and most importantly, to God. And it's my privilege to give Chipper Elrod the Coaches Award for this year.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the 2014 football banquet. On behalf of my teammates, we would like to make some special thanks. First, we would like to thank all the students in the Pep Club who made the wonderful signs for us. We love seeing them there in the halls and on the field. The seniors would like to thank the Cut-Ups and Amy Stewart for hosting them. We appreciate our moms and the work that they did to preserve our memories in these scrapbooks. We would like to thank all the people who worked with the Catamount tailgate festivities each week. From the fences lined with signs, to all the people who greeted us each Friday night at 6 for the catwalk, to the great food and entertainment, we realize it takes so many people to make everything happen. Thanks, Mr. Renz, for coming to practice to help spot penalties. Thanks to everyone who helped with the bonfires. Thanks, Bo Ridley, for coming to help us. Thank you to Coach Cole Bennett and Coach Rick Pollard for being guest coaches. Also, Coach Martinez and Coach Patrick for coming to help on Friday nights. These seniors would like to thank all the moms and dads who made the senior suppers possible, especially the Martins for letting us invade their house every Thursday. Thank you to all the speakers who came. We know that they did many things for us throughout the season. We especially treasured your support on this amazing journey. We would like to thank our mentors and the many ways that they encouraged us this year. Thank you to the Crutchfields for allowing us to have our gathering at your farm. The actions of others reminded us week after week why being a Dalton Catamount is so special and such a tremendous honor. It reminds us why Catamount football is so special. We look forward to giving back to the program in years to come. We'd like to extend our thanks to Jerry Scott and the Quarterback Club for the support that they have given us not only this year, but in all our years of being a part of Catamount football. Thank you, Mr. Henry and the band for supporting us each week, and thank you to our student body, the flag guys, and the fans who are always there for us. We'd like to thank the medical staff who are there to put us back together. Thank you to Crystal Clark, our trainer, Dr. Easley, Dr. Friggs, Dr. Norman, and Dr. Wilson. Perhaps most of all, we'd like to thank our parents who have been with us from the first time we put on pads in a rec league game. We know that after a long practice, our moms will be sympathetic and our dads will give us a nod and understand and tell us to hang in there. We know that no matter the outcome of a game, you will both be waiting outside the fieldhouse doors. We know our parents are the ones who volunteer their time to sell tickets or work on programs or prepare spaghetti dinners or make scrapbooks or do any of the 100 jobs of being part of the quarterback club. Thank you for being there for us as we enjoyed the wonderful experience of being a Dalton Catamount. There's nothing in the world like playing football on a Friday night under the lights of Harmon Field. There's one more person who deserves a huge thank you for all she does and putting this program and the banquet together. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. First, we would like to thank the junior varsity cheerleaders. We ask them and their coach to stand. Bronte Rosenblatt, Ansley Ellis, Kaylee Nelson, Star Beavers, Savannah Talbot, Georgia Bronson, Janamar Garcia, Taj Betton, Mandy Martinez, Anna Grace Bundros, Michaela Knight, and also Miroslava Lopez. We'd also like to extend our thanks to the varsity football cheerleaders, mascot, and coach. Would you please stand as I call your name? Alice Adams, Allie Wong, Amber Bradley, Anna Lily Wong, Anna Grace Wilson, Ariana Rodriguez, Braxton Jackson, Caroline Calfee, Charlie Hawkins, Emma Bacher, Emma Dyer, Gabby Duchesney, Kim J. Witcherly, Lauren Childress, Leah Shelton, Lee Childress, Macy Burgess, Michaela Karabich, Mary Morrow, Merrill Walker, Molly Cox, Olivia Ross, and Presley Craig. Our mascot was Hannah Jones. We thank her too. Head and assistant coach, Miss Tammy Fleming and Miss Shalisa Love. Lastly, we are honored and humbled to be a part of Dalton football. We will never forget being a part of the best football program anywhere. Now, my senior teammates and I would like to make some presentations to our coaches and their wives. We appreciate the support and their encouragement of their wives for the husbands. We realize that coaching takes a great deal of time, and the understanding of our Catamount wives is important. Thank you, ladies.
These 3 years of playing football with Coach Carpenter and the rest of the coaching staff have been a blessing. I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to play for men like them. Being coached by Coach Carpenter has helped me become not only a better football player, but a better man as well. I want to thank him for all that he does for me as a coach, but also as a mentor in my life. After these 3 years, I know that I'll be able to accomplish as well as withstand anything because of the way Coach Carpenter has taught me how to face obstacles in my life with confidence and overcome them. I thank you, Coach Carpenter, as well as your family for the time that you've sacrificed in order to coach and help kids like me.
Over my 4 years at Dalton High School, I've had the privilege of being coached by one of the greatest men I've ever met. Coach Jim Bennett is one of the most respectful, intellectual coaches you will ever meet if you always do what you're told. But if you don't, then he can be one of the loudest and most terrifying individuals you will ever meet. Luckily for me, I found this out very early, but some of my teammates, such as Chris Hicks, did not find out as early as I did. Coach Bennett has the greatest way of teaching my position to me and my fellow teammates. He will always help integrate wrestling into the football techniques we were learning. It has always meant so much to me when he would tell my teammates that wrestling would help so much with football. He knew I was extremely undersized for my position, but he never doubted me. I hate that I have to leave a man as great as Coach Bennett, but I know I'll never forget him or the lessons he taught me over these past 4 years. Thank you so much for everything you've taught me, Coach. I love you.
The past 4 years as a Dalton High School football player have been incredible. Not because of all the great experiences I had, but because of all the great coaches, teammates, and people I met. When I first met Coach Bennett as a freshman, I thought he was going to be very strict. But after getting to know him, I found out he's not that mean at all, unless you do something wrong. I learned early on that if I did everything the way it's supposed to be done, I wouldn't get chewed out. One thing that Coach Bennett is really good at is giving people nicknames and teaching us small rhyme schemes that go with our technique, which made playing defense a whole lot funner and easier. I am very lucky to have met someone like Coach Bennett, a very respectable husband, father, and coach. Thank you for being my coach, friend, and for making my experience as a Dalton High School player very enjoyable.
Coach Mayo, we've had some mostly good times these past few years, kicking the defense's butt every chance we get. Except, of course, for your godforsaken whistle. That hurts. And all the good times pushing Big Mama, those were fun. To be honest, though, I wasn't too excited moving over as a tight end initially, being in the trenches and all, but thanks to you and the best big guys around, couldn't have worked out any better. I really appreciate all you've taught me as far as football goes, and more importantly, just bettering myself as a person. And I expect more cookouts coming up soon also. Thank you.
I know over half of you don't know what I sound like, and I'm a man of many words. When Coach Mayo was here for practice twice a week, he was a great coach. He taught me many things like how to walk like a duck. That's not all. He also helped me become the football player I am today. I appreciate all that he's done for me as a coach and a friend.
All right, Coach Sparks. It's hard to believe that these 4 years playing football for you and the rest of our coaches are over. I can remember my freshman year, we just got back from a late freshman game, and you waited with me until my ride picked me up. That was the first time I really got to talk to you. And I got to see just what kind of a man you are. So pretty soon I saw that you were a great man of God. Coach Sparks is the type of coach that wants us to be great people off the field and not just between the pads. No matter the outcome of our games, he's always been adamant that we show class and respect. And he's surely led by example in that regard. There's no doubt he's been a great influence to everyone who has had the chance to be coached by him. So thank you, Coach Sparks, and the rest of our coaches for being great influences to us. We hope we can pay forward the integrity that you've showed us firsthand.
This next coach needs no introduction. He's roamed the sidelines for over 30 years. You know him as Bill Napier or Coach Napier, but to me, it's just Coach Nate. He has touched countless lives, and I was one of them. I remember the first time I met you. I was a water boy for one of the Murray County home games. Little did I know our paths would cross again, and I'm so glad that they did. Fast forward a few years, and I'm a 7th grader. I decided to attend Hodges Camp. My first station was with Coach Nape, working on the 5-step drop with no gather. Coach Nape, I don't miss the heat, the mosquitoes, or the food at Hodges, but I'll never forget the stories that you shared with us in the dorms or sneaking off to McDonald's to get a late-night snack. A year later, I got a text from my dad that said, "You got the best quarterback coach in the state of Georgia, Coach Napier." This is where our journey truly began. Let me tell you a funny story on Coach Nape. Miss Napier, please close your ears. Anyone who knows Coach Nape will understand he'll drop whatever, literally whatever he's doing to go throw a football. Well, on this particular Sunday afternoon, Coach slipped off while the miss was at the store to cook dinner, to run to go throw a football in Dalton with us. Coach said she had to get home after multiple missed phone calls, or she wouldn't cook for him again. We continued to grow closer and closer, and we got better with each repetition. We drew up many plays that I hoped we would eventually run. We won many games and lost games. However, all that changed one day, and football seemed a whole lot less important. Coach came in and addressed the team. He spoke to the team and informed us of his condition. The team prayed over you. All I remember is crying for 30 minutes after the team had left, and I hugged you. You kept telling me everything was going to be okay, and God has a plan. This is another example of Coach Nate putting others first. Even though he's hurting, Coach Mark Tidwell spoke to us about his book, Leave a Mark. He says, be an impact, be an influence, be intentional. I believe Coach Nape has fulfilled all these things. From this point forward, the team rallied around Coach Nape. As hard as it was for Coach, he never missed a workout or an early morning install. He was there supporting and motivating. When things got tough, we felt like giving up. You were my teammates, my coaches, and also my motivation. We had some good times throughout the summer with in-style practices and 7-on-7. As the season began, O-line dinners started, and we all know that Coach Nape's got a bad sweet tooth. He wasn't able to make it to the O-line dinners, but I was lucky enough to bring him all the wonderful desserts that we had each week. We would sit for hours and watch SEC Network, or actually talk about past memories of the upcoming games. These times are very special to me, and I will cherish them. Coach Nate, you and I have spent a lot of time together, and I'm thankful for that. We want to thank you for the countless hours you've put in this program and all the time you've taken away from your family. We're beyond grateful for that. I appreciate the advice you have given, the leadership you've shown, and most importantly, the man of God you are. You have been a tremendous role model, and I hope and pray that someday I can be half the man Coach Napier can be. I want to leave you with a quote I got from Jimmy V's ESPY speech that best sums up what we think about Coach Nate. This disease can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul. And those three things are going to carry on forever. Thank you for everything you've done for this team and me, and also God bless you and your family.
Coach Smith. Coach Smith is one of the most interesting coaches I've ever been around. Energetic, excited, and sarcastic is what made Coach Smith himself. He would always show up ready to work, and even when we weren't, he dealt with the running backs, egos all the time, and he treated us all the same. When we didn't have enough inside us, he brought it out of us one way or another. Coach Smith would never shy away from saying he loved us and that he will always be there for us. He prayed with us, cried with us, and loved us more and more throughout the season. I'm thankful for the time I spent with Coach Smith, and I'm truly going to miss the spark freak we all know. A family man, a caring husband, a good dad, and a great coach. Philippians 3:13 through 14. Brothers, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Thank you, Coach Smith, for all you have done and being there when I needed someone most.
All right, with this being my first year on the defensive side of the ball, it was also my first year spent with Coach Thompson, and I have to admit it was probably my favorite year of football, and he was a big part of that. I have the utmost respect for Coach because he not only taught us how to act on the field, but showed us how to live off the field. He's the coach who was always there for us and will make sure that you're there at 6 a.m. in the summer. He might have gotten a little heated at times, but that's what a coach is supposed to do, right? I'm truly grateful that we had a coach willing to sacrifice so much of his time with his family to help make this little part of our lives so much more enjoyable.
Round of applause for Charles, please. That was very good.
Let me just say that it was very fitting for me to have Coach Thompson as a coach. We're both very handsome. We have a nice smile, and I'm still working on that beard, a little bit. But just as we have that good side, we also have that ugly side that many people talk about. As I was coming into my freshman year, all the seniors, all the juniors, sophomores, everyone, all they talk about was they'd warn me about Coach Thompson, say that they called him angry. He was very angry at times. I never got to see that side of him, and that was because I always did what I was told. So if y'all see that side of him, it's probably because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And I really just want to come up here and thank him for everything he's done for me. It's not what he did on the field for me, but it's what he did off the field for me. I was passing through some rough times mentally. On the field and off the field. He'd always be the first one to text me, see if he could do anything for me. He truly is like a second father to me. I just want to tell you, I love you. Thank you for everything you've done. Also, I not only want to thank you, but I want to thank Coach Land and Coach Carpenter. Because there's not many people who would put the amount of trust that y'all put in me over 4 years. And I want to tell y'all that I'm very thankful for that. Because all of y'all put just as much of trust in me as my father did. There's no one that believes in me more than you guys and my father, my family. Y'all are my family. Thank you.
I got my boy, Coach Lawless. Let me give you this. Here you go. Psych. Not yet. All right, look. I didn't get to write the long story that I was wanting to write, but you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, Coach. I enjoyed the time we spent together on and off the field, and you made my first football season my best year here. And I'll always be close to you, Coach, whether you know it or not. And you taught me a lot, and little do you know, you're a big influence on my life, and you're my role model, honestly. And I just want to say I love you, Coach.
Coach Long. Also referred to as Sprout. Just going to throw that out there. So I'm going to start from the beginning. After Coach Parker stepped down our sophomore year, Coach Lane told us that Coach Thompson would be our new coach for receivers. And I remember looking at Tyler and I said, oh my gosh, we're actually going to have to start doing something to practice. And then one day, a lanky, skinny kid walked in who we all thought was our new manager. But it turns out it was Coach Sprout.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Britton. Well, for me, it all started out with the blue balls. Every day at practice, we caught his blue racket balls. Day in and day out, all we caught were those blue racket balls. I even started having dreams of blue racket balls. Next, it was your orange cones. He spent every penny that he had on those orange cones to outline every route that we ran. The other coaches couldn't stand the sight of those cones. After a couple weeks, he was going mad. He was so focused on the steps in our routes that he began to stop eating and losing weight. His clothes began to look big on him. So to fix this, he tailored his own clothes to cope with the weight loss. Then his saving grace arrived. NASCAR season. Coach Long worshipped Dale Jr. It was the only thing that kept him from thinking about football, which made me and Peter and Frankie extremely happy because he kept them off our backs. Finally, after a very long summer with Coach Long, the season rolled around.
Thanks to all of his commitment and hard work, we achieved all of our dreams, which was finally getting the ball thrown to us. And thank you for all you've done. We appreciate it all. Love you.
We will forever remember the long practices and film sessions during our senior year. Thanks for the dedication. See you at your wedding reception. Dale, yeah.
This is for me and Kiko. Quiero agradecer a toda la gente que hizo esto posible y fue algo memorable que me seguirá para el resto de mi vida. Arriba la Catamount.
Coach Lamb. As most of you know, Coach Lamb played at Auburn for Coach Dye. I found a quote from Coach Dye that reminds our team of what Coach Lamb has instilled in us. I need everybody on that field to be all in, regardless of your role. You fight when it don't look good. You fight when everybody counts you out. You fight it when there's no way anyone thinks you can do it. But you keep fighting, and at some point, you're going to win it. Coach Lamb has taught us that life and football are one and the same. On this team, we tear ourselves and our opponents apart for that first down, or on defense, that big stop. Coach says that will make the difference between winning and losing, and one day, living and dying. Coach Land is a guy who will sacrifice himself at any time, day, or night, because in the end, he knows we're going to do the same thing for him. Everyone in here loves football. As a player or a coach, we know that nobody on the field can hide. All your strengths, fears, and weaknesses are on the field for everyone to see. Coach Land teaches you to be mentally tough and have a passion and determination in all that you do. He has taught us the price you're willing to pay, the amount you're willing to sacrifice will determine your success or failure long after your playing days are over. I want to leave you with a quote from former UCF quarterback Darren Slack. The game is great not because the game is played, but because of the people and the coaches who play it. That's where the riches are. We'd be liars to say we're going to miss the 5 a.m. installs, the early morning workouts, the Sunday throwing, the dorms, or the food at football camp. Oh yes, let's not forget the time spent at Tusculum and Jack State. We will miss your Bible studies, bus trips to and from games, and all the team functions away from football. The friendships we've made, and hopefully we've all developed a 2 a.m. friend or two. We want to thank you for your leadership, your support, and your time away from your family, and also being a man of God. Hopefully our paths will cross again, but until then, go Big Red, and once a Catamount, always a Catamount.